classes that we give here at KW Falls Church, and it's proprietary to us, I'm just saying. Miss Deb was gracious enough to tell me that she would do this class as many times as I needed it, which on the calendar probably comes out to at least 4 or 5 times a year, which is a lot, since she lives all the way out in, I don't know, Culpeper somewhere. So remember, she's getting up super early in the morning to come here to teach you guys because she feels it's as important as we feel it is for your success in real estate. So today what I'm going to start with is behavioral styles. And I'm going to start teaching you guys about what we call in the office the DISC. It's the D-I-S-C. You want to get my clicker working? Awesome. So what is the DISC? It kind of tells you a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, why you do it. But more importantly, it's going to tell you about other people. It's going to tell you about who the person on the other side of a transaction is, who the person in a relationship with you is, whether that be a family member or husband, wife, anybody, and why they make you insane with some of the things that they do. Wouldn't you like to know why people drive you crazy? Don't you think that would be helpful? This thing? It just was working a minute ago. Did the battery die? Oh, I'm pressing the green button thinking that's the on button. All right, so we know who the tech person is around here, right? It's obviously not me. Yeah. Okay, cool. David, up on my desk or on my bookshelf are the DISC, the ones I make them fill out in pads. Will you grab them for me and bring them down? They're long pieces of paper in a pad. They say D-I-S-C in the 4 quadrants. Awesome. So there are 4 different styles when we're talking about behavioral styles, and they follow the D, I, S, and C. So the D is a dominant behavioral style. Somebody that's the driver. They're the speedy one. They do everything at a pretty rapid pace. They tend to sometimes be a little bit domineering. They come across strong. They tend to be highly aggressive. They're your risk takers. Anybody identify with being a D? Nanny. We do have a D in the class right there. Yep. So now what's going to happen is you're going to identify with all of them to some degree, but there are going to be 2 that come out much stronger than others, and then there's going to be one that's going to be the strongest that you can identify with most. But the 1 and 2 will run pretty close neck and neck. The I is the person who is the influencer. They're interpersonal. They're, I like that word, inspiring. They're the social butterfly. They're the ones that like to talk. They're the ones that don't want to leave any part of the story out. They think everything is important. They tend to easily make friends. They walk into a room and people are usually drawn to them because of their effervescence and their ability to socialize. They're highly sociable, sometimes to their detriment. Yes, that's your steady, stable, I don't like change person. I lived in the same house for a lot of years, had the same job for a long time. Moving, changing scares them. They're dependable. They're rock solid as your backup because you can always depend on them to do what they say they're going to do. And that's your S personality style. Then you have your C. Those people are highly, highly compliant. There is no gray area to a C personality style. It is black and white, thank you, because it is, and for no other reason. They like things to be correct. They like things to be right. They like statistics. Things need to be able to back up what somebody is saying. So they just don't take it because it feels good. It has to be logical to them. So those are the 4 personality styles. Was there one that jumped out to you as who you think you are innately or from the core? Don't all jump at once. You'd like to be inspiring. Awesome. Do you think that you are a person that's highly sociable? Mm-hmm. And when you walk into a room, you want to meet people? Awesome. Awesome. Miss Jana. The S one. So she said she's moving next month and she's freaking out. Yeah, so you like things status quo. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Anybody else? Miss Susie? I would actually agree with you 100%. I've been doing this a long time, so identifying personality styles for me has become a way of life. So yes, you're absolutely I off the chart. I would probably say you're somewhere between 97 to 100% I, because when we do the assessment, it'll tell you percentage-wise where you sit on that chart, which is a great thing, especially in real estate, right? As a salesperson, because you're not going to have the fear of engaging in conversation. Although, one of the things that's going to be difficult for an I personality style is you don't like rejection. And you don't like people not liking you. And so if somebody doesn't want to use you or they use somebody else, that's going to be difficult for an I personality style. But your D hopefully will come into play. Good morning, Mohammed. Your D will hopefully come into play. And what will happen is you'll drive right through that. You'll feel hurt and rejected for a minute. And then the D will say, get up, brush yourself off, and move forward, which is why it's important to have a little bit of that behind you. Ms. Adrian, what do you think? Okay, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that because there's 3 ways to figure out who you are, and your 3 different, your personality will change in 3 different situations. So it's your core, who you are innately, like instinctively, who you become in front of other people, right? And then who you think you are when you look at yourself in the mirror. Because sometimes who you think you are is not who other people think you are, or who you actually are innately. Let me just give them some books. Good morning. This you'll use when Deb comes up. For now, it's just me talking. So, caution. This is a big thing. There is not a perfect style. So just because you're one way or the other doesn't make you better or worse than anybody else, just makes you different. It just makes the way that you communicate with people different than the way somebody else communicates with somebody. But the beauty of today is when you walk out, hopefully you're going to get a good grasp on me teaching you how to communicate with the other styles. And in real estate, one of the things that you're going to need to do, most important thing that I could teach you, is how to mirror and match that person. Because some personality styles put off other personality styles. And so if you're too much one way, you're going to lose the client across the table because they can't identify with who you are. So today I'm going to teach you how to be a chameleon. So like I said before, we're always a blend of more than one style. Two will be very predominant. One will be more predominant than the other, but you'll have all four in your body somehow, some way, in certain situations. So if you were somebody that was a C personality style, so let's go back to C being somebody that likes correctness. They like things to be compliant, which means within the regulation. And they like statistics. If you're a high I and you walk into, let's say, a listing appointment, and you want to talk about you and your family and how great you are and blah, 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 and da-da-da, and you bring no data, are you going to win the listing? No. Because the highly compliant person that likes stats wants to know, where's the information to back what you're saying? I can only believe you if you can back it up. So if you treat them the way they want to be treated, coming in with a lot of stats and talk to the stats instead of about yourself, you will be the one that walks out with the listing. Any questions thus far? All right. Give me a D. Awesome. That wasn't good enough. Give me a D. Awesome. So, for those of you who know me, do you think I'm a D personality style? Do you think I'm an I personality style? Do you think I'm an S? Do you think I'm a C? I got C. What else do I have? What's my leading trait? Now remember, actually, you know what? Don't answer that yet, because let me get into Mira, mask, and who you think you are at the core, because then you might have a better picture of who I am. So a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I love this little tornado. The D's are tornadoes. They have a lot of great ideas, of which they're not always so great at carrying through or implementing, because they're not the implementers, right? They're the idea, visionary, I can see where we're going person. So they need to have somebody that backs them up, which is probably going to be more of an SC personality style, somebody more steady, somebody who can put it into practice. So the D walks in and they're like, oh, okay, here, this is what I want you to do. Take care of this, do this, open the book, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Have it to me by 5 o'clock, thanks. And they walk out. Oops, what'd I do? Yeah, I hit a button, there it is. That's your D personality style. They're highly driven. They're probably doing 100 to 150 things in a day, and you're one of the things that come across their desk, and they need to talk to you, tell you what it is, and leave. They might not have even knocked on the door. They probably didn't say hello when they walked in, and hopefully they said thank you when they left, but you absolutely know what they want done and when they want it done by. So that's your D personality style. Now, obviously, because we have two strengths, you can soften the D with whatever you are after it, right? If you're just a D, you're not always the nicest of people. I hear people of personality styles, once they know who they are, use it as an excuse. It is not an excuse. So just because you're a D personality style and you're driven and you're task orientated and you make things happen, it does not give you the right to be a jerk. You still have to treat people as people. But it might give you some insight as to why the D personality style behaves the way they do. Okay? Again, doesn't give them the right, but at least you knowing why they do it makes it a little easier to swallow. So, 10% of people are D personality styles. Would you agree with that? Think about the people in your life. Think about the people that you surround yourself with. And the people you thought of coming across as D personality styles, you think they're the majority in the world? No, they're not at all the majority. Actually, they're the minority in the world. So less people are D personality styles. Now, I've heard it said many times, and I don't 100% agree with this, that you will find that your Ds become your leaders because they do have the ability to move people. They do have the ability to get things done. They're task orientated. But I do believe that you can be any personality style and be a leader if you learn how to interact with people. That's the key. 10% of the population are D. So D characteristics. They're dominant. There's no doubt there. They're direct. They're demanding. They sound like terrible people so far, don't they? But they're not. I mean, they usually have some great things about them. They're decisive. They know what they want, where they want to go. They're determined. They're definitely problem solvers. There's no doubt. They're doers. They're not talkers. And they can be a little bit defiant. They can go against the rules a little bit and do it their way. They're absolutely risk takers. And they're self-starters. So you see a lot of people that are entrepreneurs that succeed at a high level tend to be D personality styles or have that as one of their 2 traits because they are of an entrepreneurial mind. You won't need this yet because we're all doing this, so you could just hold on to this, keep it to the side. So those are the Ds. They're not bad people, I promise. They just sound bad. What does a D want? They like to win. They're very, very competitive, highly competitive. They are planners because they're visionaries. So they see what they want to get to, and the only way they can get there is by implementing the plan. They like new ideas because they change often. High Ds change their mind quite frequently. And as an S personality style or a C personality style, because that's usually who supports a D in their role, that's a struggle. Because S's don't change often, and the new ideas sometimes will go against the black and white of the C, or the logic of the C, that has to make sense, because D's are visionary. They like results. They like to be their own boss, right? Because, I mean, think about it. The D doesn't want the S to tell him what to do, you know? They like to move fast. And they like a challenge. They love a challenge. Give a D a challenge. I'm just saying. And they like freedom. They like to do what they want to do and not, I don't think there's another one after that. No. Yeah. But D's, obviously, with all those great traits they have a lot of weaknesses, as do all personality styles. So what are the weaknesses of a D? They overstep authority. So sometimes, even though they're not supposed to do something because it's not supposed to happen, they do it anyhow. They can argue a little bit, or a lot of it. They don't like routine. They don't like the mundane. Why? Because they change often. They definitely attempt too much at one time, without a doubt. Because their mind races and they have a million ideas and they want to implement all of them. So they have a lot of things that go on. And Ds that succeed at a super high level then find leverage, what we call leverage, which is people, systems, and tools to help them implement all those crazy ideas that they have. They definitely cause anxiety in other people, especially an S personality style. The S trembles when the D walks in the room. They're critical and fault finding. They're inattentive to details. That's not their forte. And they may resist participation as a team player, right? Because they have their own ideas and they're like over here when the team's over here. So what is a D's greatest fear? What do you think some of their fears would be? You guys are sharp. Being taken advantage of. Oh, that's all that's there. Well, being taken advantage of, failure is actually my number one on that. Being taken advantage of and somebody wasting their time. So if you have a D personality style and you're an I, and you want to talk and have a conversation, what is the D thinking in their head? Get to the point. What are we talking about? Cut out the middle crap and let's move on. Because I got about 20 other things to do in the next hour and you're slowing me down. So how to relate to a D personality style? What we just talked about, one is get to the point. Communicate briefly and to the point and minimize small talk. Ask what, not how questions. D is not going to help you figure out how to get something done. They're just going to tell you what to do or what needs to be done. Avoid details with a D, right? Because that's getting into the small talk part of it. So just give them the overview, the big picture. Respect their need for autonomy. That one's funny. Be clear about rules and expectations with a D personality style. Let them initiate. They're going to do that anyhow. They just will. That's their personality style. Unless they're highly trained in behavioral styles and they know how to interact with you, then you might not see some of these blaring things that I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are somewhat unaware of who and what they are. They show your competence, stick to the topic. They want to know you know what you're talking about, and they want you to stick to the topic and not go off on bunny trails telling them stories. And they want you to show independence. They want you to not be dependent on them. And so that's hard for some of the supporting roles for a D. So somebody that's an SC personality style, they are a little more dependent on people, definitely S's. So a D has a difficult time with the S because the S doesn't do things on their own or without direction. They don't always take initiative. And eliminate the time wasters. Suggestions for Ds. Before you can be in authority, you must first learn to be under authority. So before you can be a leader, you need to be a follower. And some Ds step out as leaders way before they've figured out how to lead people. And you'll see that there's a huge difference between a manager and a leader. What does a manager do? Yeah, they tell you what to do. They give you, do this, do this, do this, do this. So you could see Ds coming across sometimes as managerial. What do leaders do? They guide you. They get your buy-in in their thought on how it should be, and then they move you and grow you together to get there. How will I know you're a D?
Alec Holden.
D is the absolute most obvious, in my opinion, the absolute most obvious personality style. They come across as Ds. Again, unless they're students of behavior. Give me an I.
I.
There are a lot of I's in here that didn't really help me out with that. Ready? Give me an I. Awesome.
I.
So they're the fun people. They're the cheerleaders. They're the ones that are in your corner.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh.
Wow.
Is this live?
30% of people in the world are I personality styles. That's a good thing. Because you know how unsocial the world would be if it was all Ds, right? It'd be a pretty tough world to be in. You sure can. In fact, you're going to find that people in sales tend to be either ID personality styles or DI personality styles. Although I find in Northern Virginia, you have less of the DI personality styles and more of one of those attached with an S or a C with it in sales, or at least in real estate. And I don't know if that's because of the area that we're in. Like if you went to California, it might be a totally different type of, scenario. Here you have a lot of government people into laws, regulations, a lot of attorneys, architects. So they tend to be SC personality styles. So here I would say that your SC takes the lead as opposed to your DIs or your IDs. So 30% of people are I personality styles. So I characteristics. What do you think an I is? Talk to me about some of the things you think they do. They talk a lot. They make a lot of friends. They socialize a lot. Absolutely. They're inspiring. I really do like that word. I've never used it before in describing an I, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. They're influencing. They have a say, right? People listen to them. People listen to their what they have to say because usually they're the cheerleader, right? So they're in your corner. They're impressionable. They're interesting. They talk a lot. They're impressive. They sparkle and shine. I personality styles usually wear bright colors. They usually don't tend to go the black and white route. They wear something that you might look at them and say, I'm not sure that I would wear that. Right? Not that it's not pretty. It's just maybe a little bit more bold than you personally would be. They're involved, right? Because they're a social butterfly. So they talk to everybody. They get involved. They get on committees. They get engaged. They like to be a part of. They like group activities. They're illogical. And that's not a knock. That's the truth. Because what do they think based off of? Emotion. It doesn't need to be logical to them. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to feel good. If it feels good, it works. They're enthusiastic. Again, they're the cheerleader. They're the person you want in your corner. They're trusting. They're somebody you're going to go to when you want to talk. Because usually, they're going to keep it in confidence. But they have a super short attention span. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Shiny object. Any shiny object takes them off task. Because they can't walk down the hall without wanting to stop and talk to anybody they pass, right? Because that's who they are. I like that they put classy in here, because if it would have just said flashy, I would have probably disagreed. They have a bold way of dressing, and it's usually a color, boldness, which can look great. They're talkative and animated. What does an I want? What do you think an I wants? Yeah. They like to be the center of attention. What did you say, Dennis? Oh, okay. What else do you think an I wants? Yeah, they want people to like them, without a doubt. What else does an I want?
Good service.
Lots of friends, absolutely. So an I wants to be liked. They like to express their feelings and their ideas. They like to be heard. An I likes to be heard. They like being in front of a group. They love surprises. That's so much fun, isn't it? brings the fun. An I likes recognition. They like an attaboy. They like somebody to notice everything they've been doing and somebody to say, you've been doing a great job, I'm proud of you. Now, the D personality style forgets that people need recognition. The S personality style more so will do that. But the C doesn't do it unless it's deserving. And the I wants it regardless, right? They want recognition. And they like people. Lots and lots of people. So if it's a Saturday night and an I had a decision to do something, what would they do? Go out. Would they stay at home and watch TV and sit on the couch? Probably not, right? Not by themselves. They like to be surrounded with people. They like to do activities. They like to be engaged. They like parties. What's an I's potential weakness? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep. What else? Rejection. Rejection. What else don't they like? What's a weakness for them? I's can get in a little bit of the chaos. I's like to be in the chaos. So yes, they can. So when I say that, they don't do it intentionally to cause chaos. But sometimes they do cause the chaos. So inattention to detail. They're not highly detailed people. They're creative people, colorful people. High I's don't write a contract well. They forget things. They go right over it. Oh, we don't need that. I'll just take that right out. We don't need the legal description of the property. No, that's not necessary. I don't even know what it is or where to find it. So I'm just going to skip it. They listen when it's convenient to listen, because I's tend to listen to respond, not to listen to hear. So an I is thinking in their mind, what can I say next based off of what the person's talking about, instead of actually listening to what the person is saying. And I oversell themselves every time. The buyer or the seller would have listed 20 minutes ago, and they're continuing to sell. And very often, what do? Sell themselves right out of the deal. They sell themselves right out the door without the agreement signed. They're not great closers. They're great communicators, but they don't close very well. They act really impulsively, right? Because what do they act on? Emotion. So if it feels good, they're going to do it. Yeah. High I's tend to like to impulse buy, right? Because it feels good. Difficult to plan and estimate time. They're late a lot. Yeah. Because in their mind, it's only going to take a minute to have that conversation with somebody that took 20 minutes. And they'll still be on time because they're going to do 5 or 6 things in between before they actually get to their destination. And then they realize, oh, I blew it. I'm late. They're more concerned with popularity than tangible results. So they're going to set a goal, and they're going to achieve the goal if it feels good. Not because they set a goal that they'd like to achieve. What's an I's greatest fear?
Rejection.
Did you say something, Alex?
Yeah, that's me.
Just speak a little bit louder.
I'm on my way.
Okay, got you. So what's an I's biggest fear? Rejection. They want to be liked. Definitely, without a doubt. Their fear and their weakness kind of go hand in hand. Rejection. Without a doubt. How do you relate to an I personality style? Well, based off of what you know, what do you think you need to do with an I personality style? Make them feel good. Yeah, they need recognition. So pat on the back, the attaboy, telling them they're doing a good job. But keep it going. Yeah. Be relaxed and sociable. They don't like uptight people. They definitely have difficulty with some demanding people, right? Because the demanding people are going to tell them what to do, walk out, and they're like, oh, where'd you go? Do you not like me? Right? That's their first thought. Did I do something to upset you? Did I hurt your feelings? Which most of the time with an I, it has nothing to do with any of that. But they always think that there's a reason why somebody's behaving the way they're behaving, and they're the reason, and they're not. So let them talk. They need to be heard. Keep the conversation light. They don't like facts and figures. They don't like statistics. Do not talk about numbers. Not talk about numbers. We can see who the eyes in the room are, right? Have you guys started to pick up on that yet? Suggest what action they should take, right? Because sometimes their thoughts can be all over the place, and so they do need a little bit of direction to keep them on track because they tend to be squirrel. So you need to guide them. Provide details in writing and don't dwell on them. So give it to them and don't go over it. If you walk in and you're doing a listing appointment with somebody that's a high I, make sure you have pretty charts that have a lot of color because that's all they're looking at. They're not looking at the numbers. It doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to look good. Provide an incentive for them to take on a task. So again, they like recognition and reward. So they'll do something if there's an end game to it. If you do this, you'll get a bonus. If you do this, you'll become the president of the group. Whatever it is. Give them public recognition. So they're the ones that. Hold on. Oh, that's so cute. As long as people are listening, we had somebody that was listening like you guys are. Yeah, and you're listening to me, which I love. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So give them public recognition. They like humor. They like to laugh. They like a good time, right? They like freedom from control and detail. They're free birds. They're free birds. They don't like 9 to 5. They like to do what they want. They like to be able to go out and go to Starbucks. They like to go and meet people and engage in conversation. And with an I, you ask who, right? Because they're people. So they want to know who, not what. They don't want to know the what of it. They use stories about others to convince themselves of things. They're people pleasers. They're big time people pleasers. And if I had to say, the number one downfall to the I personality style is they need to please somebody else to accept them instead of accepting them for who they are. Suggestions for an I. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. How will you know you're an I? I'm sorry, I can't look at Donna. How will you know you're an I? Oh, sorry. Where did my eyes go? You were here a few minutes ago.
On the phone?
I'm on the phone.
How do
Yes, Alex is an absolute I all day long. When she comes in, you're going to completely understand what I say.
I'm trying to figure out how to mute this.
They talk a lot. They talk a lot. Yeah.
Coming.
When an I walks in the room. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Give me an S. So, S personality style. They like teams. They like togetherness. They like people working together. They like harmony. 30 to 35% of people in the world are S personality styles. I'm actually glad because we probably would have high turnover rates in jobs. People wouldn't get things done. We wouldn't have anybody detailed enough to make sure the implementation part happened if we didn't have the S personality styles. So they're very needed in life. General characteristics of an S. They're very supportive. They're stable. They don't like change. Please don't change things with an S personality style. How do you think they feel about a D? Whoo, buddy. Woo. Yeah, watch out. So the D and the S are your direct opposites. They couldn't be any further from this. Yeah, they're everything they think is opposite. But what happens in the DS personality style? What happens with that dynamic in business? They're more productive. They completely balance each other out because everything the D doesn't want to do, the S absolutely loves. And everything the S doesn't want to do, the D is more than willing. Because the S personality style is steady and stable. They're very sweet. They would never probably be mean to you. They just usually don't have it in them. They're status quo. Sometimes they tend to be shy. They're not going to walk into the room and be like, hey, I'm here. Look at me. They're going to walk into the room like this. Did anybody see me? Right? They hate to be noticed. They don't like big crowds. They hate big groups. That's very, very anxiety filled for somebody that is an S personality style. They don't know how to say no. If I could teach S's to do one thing, it would be say no to people. They don't know how. So a lot of their stress in life comes from the fact that they take on everything, even when they shouldn't. But they're great listeners. Has anybody ever walked into Debbie Martin's office and sat down and talked to her, our MCA? If you sit down across Debbie's table, she will stop what she's doing, turn her body directly towards you. She won't even move her hands. She'll listen to your every word. She'll have eye contact with you. And she'll just sit there. If you sit there for an hour, she'll sit there for an hour. Now, again, that's a little problematic because she's not the multitasker when you're sitting in front of her. Her attention is going to be completely on you because that's what S's do. They're 100% team players. They do whatever it takes for the greater good, even if it's at the fault of them. They're going to work really hard, probably too hard. They're going to be high overachievers because they think that's what they're supposed to do. They're going to come in early and stay late. But they're definitely somebody you want on your team. They're possessive. Now, sometimes when I say that, people give me that weird look. Like, why would you think an S personality is possessive? They're possessive of the job. They don't like to give it up. They don't want to ask anybody for help. They're going to complete it on their own. And so that's another difficult trait for them is they don't ask for help. They're very understanding. They're going to understand everything that you say. They're good listeners. They're never going to find fault with you, right? They're friendly, but not like an I. So they would never be mean to you. They'll engage with you, They might not make the first step to engage with you. You'll probably have to engage them first, but they're going to be super friendly people. And they are predictable. Completely, totally, and utterly. Everything they do, you could probably have said to yourself, oh, they're going to be here at 8:01. They're going to not work. They're going to work through lunch and not take lunch today. And they'll stay at their desk till 8 tonight. Like they just are very, because they're methodical. And everything they do is by a schedule. They're very scheduled people. What does an S want? Stability. Absolutely. No change. No change. They want stability. They want to be accepted, right? That's why they people please. They're like the I's. They love teamwork. An S does not like to be completely isolated. They like to be a part of something. And they don't like you to come in and tell them you're gonna do it a new way today. And so the D personality style changes the way everything's done. Oh, I don't know, every 2 or 3 days. Oh yeah, that was a good idea, but now I have a better idea. So do me a favor. You used to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now do 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Mark it in red. Highlight it and then scan it and email it to me. Thanks. And 3 days later, it's, you know what? Don't email it to me. Just post it on my board. It'll be easier that way. 3 days later. You know what? That's not working for me. Can you do me a favor? Go back to the email. And you are driving the S up the wall. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Now. Stop it. Yeah. The I's like, just put it to the side. Who cares what they said? Come on, let's go. Yep. They like harmony. They are not conflict people. You will never see them in conflict. You will see them internally in conflict. Yeah. They are going to eat their feelings. And I don't mean exactly with food. They're just not going to bring them up. They're going to pretend like it didn't happen. They might go home and cry, but they'd never do it in front of you. They like things to stay the same. They don't like change. Did you get that? They don't like change? They like routines, mundane. The more mundane, the better for them. They like that. So do you think that an S personality style likes commission-based job if they are the sole breadwinner? What do you think that does for them? It's not predictable. Well, it is. The C personality style is going to tell you it is. It's absolutely predictable, right? Right. And as your team leader, I'm going to tell you it is absolutely predictable, right? But nobody will listen to me for the first 3 years at least. They have difficulty being salespeople because of the commission schedule. Doesn't mean they can't sell. They're just afraid of not having income if they're the sole breadwinner. Now, if they have another breadwinner, they're perfectly fine. But the panic and anxiety that they would have in their bodies because of being the sole provider would probably cause sheer anxiety. They resist change. So these are their weaknesses. They resist change, which can be a weakness, right? Because things evolve. The world is an ever-changing place. So the older real estate agents, you'll see they don't like texting. They don't understand why millennials don't pick up the phone and talk, right? Because that's change. That's technology. So S, they hold a grudge, but you'll never, ever know it. They don't forgive easily. But again, you might never know it. They're sensitive to criticism. So the D personality style walking in and say, you know what, you did that report wrong. The S wanted to crawl under the desk. They don't like that. So how can a D talk to an S? Hey, I love the effort you put into that report. I think maybe we can change the way that it's being done, though. I think I might get some more use out of it this way. What do you think? Right? Do you see how I did that? I totally changed how I said it. Difficulty in establishing priorities. So they want to do everything, right? They don't delegate and they don't give work away, which means they have to do everything. And sometimes they don't know what's the most important thing to do, because to them, everything is important, even changing the toilet paper in the bathroom. And they have a really, 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 really hard time sharing their feelings. What's the S's greatest fear? Loss of security. So how difficult is it for an S personality style to get into real estate? Very difficult. Not impossible. Who you are in this disc does not dictate how you are going to live your life, right? All it is an explanation as to why you feel sick to your stomach thinking that you have to live on commission. That doesn't mean you can't make it happen. And how to relate to an S. What are the ways that you think you should relate to an S? Absolutely. Be friendly and supportive. Ask how and not what, because the S needs it fully explained. They want to know, how do you want it done? Because they don't want to do it wrong. They use evidence of benefit to convince. So they have to see that there's a benefit in what they're doing. They're not driven by benefits per se, but they're driven by what is the benefit for what we're doing. You have to give them details to highly detailed people. Be patient when introducing change, so they're going to be slow to change, but that doesn't mean they can't change. Display a sincere interest in them. That helps a lot. Get to know who they are. Present ideas which require them to change how they do something in a non-threatening manner, like what I just did with Meesum. They're not going to like to change, but if you present it in a way that seems okay to them, they'll go with it. And provide personal assurance of follow-up support. They like to be supported. Help them understand how their actions will minimize risk. And never, 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 never change their environment without asking. Don't go in and move things around on their desk. Don't move their desk. Don't move their files. Don't move their boxes. If they've come up with a system, don't change it unless they have some input in it. Do me a favor, hit the remind me later. Don't let that install. Oh. I just saw it. I'm like, that would be really bad. All right, suggestions for an S. So this is there. This is the hardest thing it's hard for an S to even say no. So for me to say that you can teach an S to say, what part of no don't you understand? I don't know that that's going to happen, right? But work on it. Work on teaching them that at least. How will you know you're an S? Miss Jana, how do you know you're an S? Yeah. Because the anxiety fills you when you think about change, when you think about something different than what you're comfortable with or what you're used to. So let me say this, though. For somebody to move to another country and learn another language and be far away from their family, you learn really well how to deal with being an S. So what I want you to see is that even though you're an S personality style, it doesn't mean that you can't do things that an S wouldn't like to do. It's really important you guys hear that. These personality styles should never stop you from doing what you want to do. It's just an understanding of why it feels uncomfortable when you're doing it. Give me a C. Do it again. All right, there you go. The eyes were chiming up a little bit there. All right, awesome. Did you ever try to argue with a C? Not a good idea. Why is that, do you think? Happy wife, happy life. Just saying. Absolutely. So why don't you argue with a C? What's one of the reasons? Usually when a C is arguing with you is because they have the facts to back up what they're arguing with you about. Because otherwise they're not going to argue. They don't live in the gray area. 20 to 25% of people in the world are C personality styles. So now that we've gone over the 4 personality styles, who's the most popular? S. They're 30 to 35% in the percentages. Yeah. Yep. Next is I, then is C, and praise the Lord, then is D. Because we'd be in a lot of trouble if it was the other way around. So C characteristics. They're cautious. They're calculating. And I don't always like that word because it usually sounds like they're calculating to do something devious or bad or scheming. They're not. They're calculating in making stats, goals. Right, exactly. They're competent. They're cognitive. They're lawyers all day long. They're engineers, right? They're accountants. Why? Because those fields require what? They're facts and figures. There's black and white. There's no gray. Yeah, absolutely. They're careful. They're not risk takers. Absolutely. Right. So with a C personality style, they're based in logic, remember. So they're void of emotion because nothing they do in life is an emotional decision. So when people are void of emotion, they seem cold. It doesn't necessarily make them cold, but think about your accountant, think about your, lawyers, right? Yeah, they come across that way. It doesn't mean that they're actually cold. They are absolute perfectionists. Do it right or don't do it at all. To a fault, 100%. They like to dress the same. Black and white. Gray. That's the only time they like gray. Hey, Miss Alex. And they're accurate. So, now that you know what the characteristics of a C are, what do you think they want? Absolutely. Yeah, so C's think, oh my gosh, why can't they get this right? How many times do they have to be taught this? They need to be right. Be careful getting into an argument with a C, like I said, because if they're arguing with you, then they've got some sort of ammunition to back up who they are. They like to know what's expected. Don't surprise them with things. Make sure there's a checklist. They like a well-established pattern. They like clear instructions. They like finishing what they start, right? What? Oh, slow down. I'm going to send you guys the PowerPoint. So just so you know, for future, every class we teach is recorded. Every PowerPoint you see is uploaded to YouTube. Every class is uploaded to YouTube, and it's done before the day is out. So yesterday's open house class, they sent you the link for the PowerPoint. It's in your email. I can mute people Yeah, and you can mute your speaker. Yep. But we didn't really hear you that much, so. They love organizing. They have organizational OCD. And they like things done right. So what's a potential weakness for a C? Yeah. In a C's world it is, right? Because there's logic or fact to back it up, right? So they need clear-cut boundaries. They really need to know what their job description is. They don't like to color outside the lines. They're bound by procedures and methods. Very hard for a C personality style to bend the rule. They get bogged down in details easily. They prefer not to verbalize feelings, right? Because they're logical thinkers, so they tend to be a little bit shut down emotionally. They will give in. That's got to be wrong. That's got to be wrong. Yeah, they don't give in. I'm going to take that one off there. They argue up a storm. They don't give in. So hold on. Yes. So they are going to argue all day long, right? But after the argument is over, the first person to come and apologize is going to be the C. Absolutely. Absolutely. They don't like to delegate tasks. Why? Right, because who's better than them, right? They're perfectionists, and nobody could ever do the job better than them. That's a real estate agent's biggest problem, when they believe that nobody's ever going to do the job as well as them. I'm the best real estate agent ever. My clients love only me. I couldn't get an assistant. She could never be as good as me. Real estate agents always say that. They avoid involvement when they feel threatened. They will back down from big chaos and crisis. They don't live in chaos, so they're not going to engage in it. And they focus on their own tasks that they need to accomplish, not everybody else's. They're super black and white. So what's a C's greatest fear? Being out of order. Criticism. Oh, I see, and I took that as 1, 2, 3, being out of order, right? But those are low scores from judges. Yeah. They don't like criticism. They don't like you to tell them that they've done something wrong because they're perfectionists. And how to relate to a C. Be prepared, right? So what are you bringing with you? The facts, the stats, the charts. The graphs don't have to be pretty, but they have to be accurate. Provide the pros and cons. They want to know if they're going to get into something, what are the benefits and what could be the negatives. Support ideas with accurate data. No surprises. Provide. The eye goes, man, that's terrible. What'd you say? So it's pretty awesome. I bet you all sat here and at least thought of 2 or 3 people that you're in a business with, in a relationship with, a friendship, or know that you have said, oh, yeah, there's so much that personality style. Has it started to give you an awareness of why there's some conflict sometimes? This is every relationship in the world, especially husband and wife, should have to know this. I'm just saying, should be in counseling. So if you're agreeing with them, you have to be specific. If disagreeing, disagree with the facts and not the person. So if you and I are going to argue, Robert, I'm okay with you being right. I'm not going to hold it against you, and we're going to be able to walk away. I'm actually not okay with you being right because I'm probably right, but I'm okay with you disagreeing with me, and we're going to still be friends, and I'm going to be okay with it. They don't hold grudges like this S does. Be prepared to provide many explanations in a patient, consistent, and diplomatic manner. Minimize small talk. Get to the point. Ask why, not what. They need the explanation why everything happens. Avoid violating their standards, right? Because they do things by the book. So don't color outside the lines. Provide feedback and direction. Don't be vague. You want to give a C a job, you got to tell them exactly what you want the output to look like. And know they will want to double check things. So they believe that you did it and did it well, but they're going to verify that the numbers match, that the facts are right. So even though you came with all the stats for that listing appointment, they went on Zillow anyhow. And chances are they didn't get the right facts there because they didn't read the bottom that, well, they did. They read the bottom that says, well, it's only 45% right in your area. Okay, suggestions C. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So because they tend to be numbers people, they can come across like they don't care. So you want to try to help them with the caring piece of it. How will you know you're a C? Everything's black and white. Everything's black and white. Nothing's gray. So you have people that are D are outgoing, task-orientated. People that are I are also super outgoing, but their activity is people. Your S personality styles are reserved, but they like people. They need interaction and team building and teamwork. Your C is reserved, and they're all about the task. You feel overwhelmed? So let me ask you a question. Now that we've gone through that, for those of you who know me a little bit, what do you think my personality style is? Anybody? IS? All right. So here's where the mask, and the core come in. So I am a mask of an I. So I want people to believe that I am super into people. And I love people. And I engage at a high level with a lot of people. But it's exhausting. It's beyond exhausting for me. My personality in the mirror, what I think I am, and I am, I'm a D. My role requires my I to be off the chart on a daily basis. But I am a DC all day long. Now, that's difficult because my risk-taking, visionary, do it quick, do it fast, just get it done, who cares how it looks. C personality style says, whoa, 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 wait a minute. You didn't do that right. You're coloring outside the lines. Hold on a little bit. And the D's like, I don't care what the rule says because I like to break them. Right? So could you imagine what the inside of the body does? Really difficult. Really difficult. The I and the C personality style have difficulty. The DI go fantastic together. They meld, gel. The ID goes fantastic together. The SC goes great together. The CS goes great together. Take either one from either one of those and switch it, and there's some conflict going on the inside of the body. So how many of you know not to call me after 8:30 at night? Why is that? I'm asleep. Because I'm exhausted. Because all day long I'm an I. All day long I'm on. I'm interacting with people. My personality style does not like to interact with people. My personality style doesn't want to sit across the table and listen to their stories. But because I need to do that in my job role, I do it. And I'm okay at it because none of you guessed I was a D. Right? So the point of why I tell you that is it doesn't matter who you are. You can always be somebody different and be super successful at it. But when anxiety strikes, you'll feel it inside. And that's what you have to remember on how to overcome that anxiety. So, really quickly, and I will wrap up. If you are a D personality style interacting with an I in a listing appointment or a buyer consultation, you need to talk or listen to them at least. Let them talk. Don't be short and to the point. If you are a D with an S, you need to sandwich everything you say. And I'll tell you what that means. Donaldson is laughing at me in the back. You're going to say something positive. You're going to then talk a little bit about what the correction is and how you think they could do it differently and how that might help them and benefit them. And then you're going to close with reinforcement on what a great job you think they're doing. Is that easy for a D? No. Is it necessary for the S? Yes. The D personality style with the C. That's just hard. I'm going to give you the slides. Yeah. And then I'm going to give you these when you leave so that you understand what I'm talking about. It's a full chart of what, who, when, how, why, and what to do with them. So the D with the C, again, there's sometimes an internal battle there. So again, the D has to just reinforce with the C the what, how they have to do something. This is the order that I wanted in. Make sure you give them a lot of details. That's what they need. So let's go to the I personality style. How do they interact with everybody? The I goes into an appointment with a D, short, sweet, to the point. They don't care about you. They don't want to know about your family and your kids. They want to know about your marketing program, how you're going to get their house sold, and what you're going to do for them. They want you in and out within a half hour. Do not be there an hour and a half because you're not going to get the listing. And they just want to know that you're going to get the job done, that you're going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. The I personality style with the I, they should just stop talking. Yeah, you could be there forever. You get a bunch of eyes in the room, and I've got to leave. Yeah, the S personality, the I with the S. So the I has to remember that the S has a job to do, and the S is going to stop doing their job to listen to them, and that's going to cause a lot of anxiety for the S after the fact. So please be mindful with the S that they don't want to sit there for an hour and a half and hear about you. And they're already scared. They're frightened. They don't want to sell their house. They're frightened about buying a new house. They don't want to move. They don't want to change jobs. This is all very overwhelming for them. So don't come in going, oh my God, that's awesome. You're going to sell your house. It's going to be great. You're going to feel great. Oh my God, we're going to get it sold. You're done. It's over. They're going to find somebody that can identify with the fear that they're feeling. So identify with how they feel. The I with the C. Eyes you color all over the page. You don't know how to stay in the lines. So at least while you're in that meeting with them, bring charts. They don't have to be colorful. Bring facts. Stick to the facts. Don't go off talking about, how, oh, if we redecorate in here and if we do staging and da-da-da-da-da. They don't care about that. They'll go with it if you say, we think we need to restage. I'll handle it. I'll get it all done for you. It's going to cost this amount of money. You're good all day long. Your S personality style with a D. The S personality style with a D is frightened the minute you walk in the door. They don't like being around you. You need to slow down. I had a 70-year-old MCA when I was the OP of my market center. And he wore hearing aids and he was frightened of people. If he saw somebody walking down the hall, he ditched into an office. He really, truly was frightened of people. So here I would come in, running around the corner. Kenneth, can you do me a favor? Most of the time he was sleeping. I would scare him to half to death. Can you do me a favor? Can you get this done? I need it in like an hour. And I walk out. I didn't tell him how I wanted it. I didn't tell him anything. I know he was shaking. Finally, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to give this guy a heart attack. And then what would I do? So then I would tiptoe to his office. I'd slowly, Kenneth, do you have a minute? Oh, sure. What do you need? I have a report that I would, if you have time today, sometime before the end of the day, maybe, you think you could get me a top-down report? Oh, yeah. I'd have it in 5 seconds because that's who he was. But when I would come in and frighten him, he was off his game. So just be careful how you interact as a D to the S because they need you to slow down. Slow and steady wins the race. S personality style with the I, get to the meat of the meeting of what you're talking about. Don't overdo it. S with an S, they love each other. They do great. S's. Most of the personality styles love their other personality style. They think the same. So you'll see that your favorite personality style is whatever you are. Your S with your C, they love each other too. They get along super well because they're a little bit more fact-based. They're detail-orientated. They're slow-moving, and they like tasks. And that pretty much covers them all, I think. Do you guys have any questions on personality styles? So it's called the DISC, and I can send it to every one of you. It will take you 7 to 10 minutes to take it. It's going to ask for 2 things. What do you think about yourself? And it's going to have a bunch of little things. And then what do you think other people think of you? Do not overthink it, you SE personality styles. Remember the question, when you're a D, remember the question says what other people think of you, not what you think of you, twice. So once it gives an output, it'll then give me a pretty thick report on who you are, why you act the way you act, and how you should interact with every single personality style. It's really, really insightful. One of the things that I'm going to suggest that you do, if you are currently in a relationship with another human being, and I don't care if it's man and wife, absolutely, have them take the assessment as well. I'd be more than happy to send it to them. The biggest strides that Eric and I ever made in our relationship was when I figured out that he was a high I, and I'm a high D, and I'm highly critical. And I cut him down every chance I can without knowing it because I'm trying to teach him how to do something better. And what he heard was he wasn't doing it good enough. Yes, of course. Yes, I do all day. Yeah, of course. But when you're in a relationship with somebody else or you're in just any human being, when you learn how to speak to them, act towards them, or behave with them, the relationship automatically gets better. So it's not easy, but it's worth it. Miss Alex. Mm-hmm.
Hello. So anyway, I walk in the door with my person, and she is about 6'2" and overwhelmed the man and the woman. We immediately sit at the table. She takes out, this is with Weichert, so we had these big black books and our opening books, and we sat there. She opened this book of like 40 pages immediately. I sat there like this, went through the entire book, and the man didn't want to hear it. He shut himself off. So me being the mentee watched. I saw him shut off, and I was like, oh my God, we're done. We're gone. You saw it happen just like that, being the observer. And then she hit some note that set him off. And he said, "Did you just call me a liar?" And I said, "Oh, we need to go to the car right now. We're just out of here." And it was over just like that. And oh, it was horrible. So, I mean, it was just too conflicting. I don't know whether he was not an I, that's for sure. She was not an I.
So he wasn't mirroring her behavioral style.
They could have both been D.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Those of you, yeah, those of you in the room who just heard her story, what personality style is she? She's an I. What told you she was an I? The cookies. So in her story, she needed to explain some things to you that were outside the story parameters. Like she used to work at Weichert and they had a big black book, right? Which was not relevant to the story. No. And no. I don't want you to feel picked on. I'm trying to get them. Hold on. So let me ask you a question. Did she just feel picked on? Did she just feel like I was criticizing her and she wasn't liked? Right? So her perception was that, but was that my intention as a D? No. Right? Nothing. You are who you are. And be very proud of who you are. Be very proud of who you are. But be aware of who's around you. Right? The same way in that appointment, if he would have identified who that person was across the table, he would have done something very different in that presentation. He would have presented to that person. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that right? Yep. Yeah. Right. And when you start to learn the disc, you will then always know what not to do. I'm not saying you'll always not do it. Right? It's when you're really highly aware of how you have to behave to somebody else. And it's the greatest gift you could give to somebody else is to behave the way they need to be spoken to. Right? It's not a bad thing. Some people say, well, why should I change? I am who I am. Right, but to make a relationship better, especially a sellers more than buyers. Buyers are happy in the process. Sellers not so much. You better be who they need you to be or you're not getting the listing. Okay? With that being said, I thank you. I will turn the mic over now to David Donaldson, who's going to teach you about dotloop. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, wait, no, hold on. So everybody please take a 10-minute bathroom break. Get up out of your seats, walk around, go to the bathroom, walk outside, get some fresh air, get some water, and thank you for coming. I listen, don't I? I do. Sure. who you are at the course
Yeah.
does not change. Who you are, mirror or mask, can change based on the job role.
Good question, right? All right, so I'm going to try to use this mic because I have to drive and talk at the same time. Yeah, we're going for a ride. Yeah, I'm just testing out the mic and talking to people online. Don't panic, don't panic. What's that? Do I look like I'm dealing craps? Come on now, they wish they had this much style. Which personality type am I? I train, my I and my D go back and forth. They battle each other, right? Because obviously as a trainer, I have to have a lot of I coming out, but I have to be a lot of D because I got to be a driver too, right? Because I got to get things done. So I'm constantly in conflict with myself about how I present things or how I do things or my patient level sometimes. I have to kind of keep that in check. It's a tricky business, but understanding those profiles is just important. And that's why I had asked Sheila that question. So when I first took mine 10 years ago, I was ID, and I did it again about a year ago or a little after my job position changed, where I became more doing this more than sales. I became more DI because there was a switch in my job, right? So as a salesperson, my I needed to come out, right? The D was there to drive the contracts home to get those through. But when I became more trainer, more regimented, more 9 to 5 in my stuff, I became more DI. But they're both pretty high.
So what part of the dotloop training are we getting today? Just like a session?
Well, you're getting a high level basic class right now is what you're getting. So for the next hour and a half, you're getting dotloop basic. So it's something we've been doing the last couple of bootcamp classes was to incorporate the contract writing portion of it, because over the next 4 weeks, you're going to be writing contracts. So what I'm giving you today are the tools to get in, log in. You've all been getting in. So if you can't get in right now, I'm not going to have the time to kind of check your passwords and reset things. We can do that after. But I want to give you a tutorial because I want you to get comfortable jumping into the system because you can't break anything. Right? So as you're writing contracts and doing contract work over the next couple of weeks, I implore you to do the contracts in dotloop. So you can get all kinds of practice over the next couple of weeks. Right. Exactly right. So that's why we're kind of doing it this way. So she'll go through paperwork in the class, but you'll be more than welcome to be filling out that paperwork on dotloop while you're in the class.
Right. Submitting it and let's look at it.
Yep. It's all going to be practice stuff for you.
So when are we going to hear from that?
Maybe never.
15 minutes.
You came in all the way from what? You come in from like Royal or North, right? Okay.
Yep. 3.5 hours in the road.
Personality is actually the word for it. It's called. I know Steve's Dominic, what is C?
Compliant.
Because all mine are above the line. My D, my I, my S, and my C.
They're all above the line? Oh my. So you're like a 55555 on your AVA?
I retook the one she has now, the different one.
And for those of you that are sitting on this side of the room, I'm going to be doing a lot of staring right at you. Because I'm driving off the monitors in the back of the room instead of turning around behind. So if you want to move to the other side of the room, I won't be offended. I'll be staring this way a whole heck of a lot.
You know there's a monitor over here.
I know. But I'm trying, so I'm using this. It's got, it's like a 30-foot range. So I'm trying to make it work. Trying to make it work. All right.
So all the paperwork we have to do with any transaction we have available through dotloop. We don't have to actually do any card paper or anything, do we?
If you're, well, it depends on your clients. So the answer is yes.
Assuming that they are.
Right. So that's part of what we'll talk about, right? You have to understand who your client is, right? Because are all clients going to be comfortable doing digital signatures? No. But that also doesn't mean that you can't fill out everything that I'm going to show you and then print it out and get hard signatures. So part of it is having a conversation with your clients. What's up, man? But all the documents in Virginia are provided for you. All the documents that we can get our hands on. Is anybody in here, just for understanding, Maryland or DC licensed? Awesome. Okay.
Who did not get one of these?
Donna, what was your question?
I have a question. All right. So going forward, I will be late every day because I have a child that goes to school at 9. And part of me was like, I might as well stay home and take class. But is it better to be here in person?
Yes.
Okay. So what is your suggestion? Because I will get here like I did today, and I hate to be like party for the party, but I know.
You can listen.
Event planner.
Go away in and then come in. I just want to let you know I'm not going to be late.
No, I don't like that.
They schedule 9 a.m. and elementary school students in my area, they start at 9:05. So
You can do go-to-meeting right from your phone.
I'm like
Yeah.
calling in while I'm trying.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I think something.
Now, remember, we're a flexible environment, right? We know people have lives, and we know that weather and snowstorms and school, and most of us have had kids, so we all understand. Don't stress about it. You'll be all right. I'm going to be sitting here looking right at you guys, just so you know.
I think something that scoots up off the printer.
All right.
Run this back and front.
What is that? I just picked up somebody else's paperwork.
Hey, I can drop it off. Yeah, it looks like somebody's resume.
What's that?
Get started.
You want to move to this side? I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that's what the printer was.
It was 3. Second.
All right, I want to get started because this is normally an hour and a half class, and I got to try to get through this in an hour. So I'm going to ask that you guys hold all questions when possible to the end. I'm going to give you as much information as I can. I'm going to show you where there's additional, everything I'm covering is supported with online video, fact pages, my own video tutorials. There's a lot of online information for you, right? I do typically do 2 dotloop classes a month, but the months that we do boot camp now, I'll be doing the dotloop class in boot camp, just because the class is really for you guys for the most part. So then I also have a secondary class called dotloop day to day, where it's a 3-hour class where you actually will come in, and a lot of things that you're going to do in boot camp too, but you'll come in, you'll write an offer, you'll put a listing in the system, you'll exchange offers with cooperative agents, and just kind of see how the process works. But those are all things that you can do on your own. You don't have to do it in my environment. Get together, partner up with each other, and just, hey, let me submit an offer. Let me send this back to you. Let me practice using the PDF tool writer, because this really does a lot of stuff, and it's just a matter of time for you guys to get comfortable with it. And the more you ramp up into your business, the better you're going to get that out of this, right? If you write one contract every 6 months, this is going to take you a little bit more time every time you go to write a contract. Does that make sense? All right, hey, Susie, we're going to get started now, okay?
Oh, we started?
We're starting. So if you're playing along at home or if you're in the classroom, welcome to dotloop basics. Yay! Who knows what dotloop is? Any ideas?
Electronic signature.
Electronic signature tool. What else is it? Okay. Sending documents, sharing documents, right? Control who you share it to. Electronic signatures. Transaction management. That is correct. It has a contract to close feature built into the system should you choose to use it. Okay. I also use it for once I'm under contract with somebody that I will track the majority of my communication for the transaction right in dotloop. So I'll instant message or chat or send things through dotloop, so everything's stored there instead of text messaging and emails when possible. So everything is kind of within the system. Yeah, I mean, if we can. So that is dotloop. So dotloop is provided to us for you guys through Keller Williams. Now, I asked if anybody was licensed in DC and Maryland. There's a very specific reason why I asked that. So dotloop itself, the way that we have it now, has all of the Virginia documents in the system for you. And they are updated as they were at the beginning of January. We had some contract changes automatically into the system. I usually have to keep an eye on it. Some things break, I fix them. If you do business in DC and Maryland, okay, we have done our best to gather as many documents as we can for MAR, SMAR, GCAR, but dotloop and those boards do not have a relationship yet. so they're not automatically updated. So when contracts change, we do our best to try to update. Also in Maryland, because of the counties, there's county documentation in just about every level, and we can't get our hands on every single one of those. So just understand that if you're doing Maryland business, there's other options for you. Most of it's here, well, we can show you that, but there's also zip forms which we give you access to, but nobody in here right now. So I just wanted you to be aware that you do go down that path. All right, so you access dotloop through one of two ways. You can go to dotloop.com, okay, or you can access it directly from mykwkw.com under the My Transaction button, okay. You'll always know that you're in the Keller Williams version or your office version of dotloop if the screen is black, red, and white. If you're ever working in a loop and it is blue and white, somehow, some way, you are actually in a free version and you won't have the full functionality that you need, right? And your loops will be somewhere else than where they should be. So the first time you log in, right, make sure that you're on a black, red, and white screen. And typically what I tell people to do is when they go to dotloop.com the first time is just reset their password. Because sometimes the passwords link that is defaulted for you from KW doesn't carry over. So if you go to dotloop.com, I will tell you to just go ahead and say forgot password, do a reset. The reset will go to your email address that's on file with dotloop, which is your KW email address. Okay, so that's what you have to be able to access. All right, so when you log into dotloop, you'll come to this screen. All right, see a big plus button there? That's basically the button that you would hit to start new loops. Okay, loops are these big circles here. You'll see the circles, some have numbers, some are colored in, some aren't. I mentioned earlier that this was also a contract to close system. So there's no right or wrong answer to the number of steps that are listed in this loop or if a loop is completed or not, because it depends if you're using the contract to close system, right? You could have one in there and have a complete loop because you sent somebody to sign something and they signed it. Done. If I had to assign 25 people to do 25 different things because I use contract to close, then it'll incrementally work its way around the circle saying it's complete. So don't trip up on that too much, okay? I actually don't even use this view, so I'll show you how to change it. Across the top of the page, you see a little graph, okay? That's a transaction tracking productivity bar. It's not tied to KW, okay? It's strictly for the number of loops that you have opened or closed inside of dotloop. I don't even look at it, so I don't worry about it, but it tells you how much business you've done in dotloop if you're a numbers person, right? That SC, and you really need to where that's coming up, that's there for you. Next one, you'll see a little smiley face. The smiley face basically is your home button, okay? The smiley face is home. If you ever get into a loop or you forget where you are or you went down some rabbit hole, okay, you can hit the smiley face and that'll bring you back to the listing loop page. The second one you see is a little checkbox. Those are tasks. You know, if you're using contract to close, right? If you're using tasks in your feature, it'll say, hey, I've got tasks. I see all you straining your eyes. Is that better? Okay. It's a checkbox. I guess I could try to use a little pointer here, right? Turn this off. Right there. Checkbox. Everybody see that? For those of you playing at home. So if you have done tasks or you have tasks that are due, you could check on that and look at it. Have they been completed? Are they outstanding? Which loops are they in? Because this is a high-level view of everything that's going on. And then when you're in a loop, you could also have the same functionality of looking at are there tasks due for the particular loop that I'm looking at. The little person here kind of look like a forward-facing Alfred Hitchcock, all right? I'm date myself a little bit there. Those are the people in your database, your dotloop database, right? So anybody that I'm going to send a contract to or send documents to, I have to have what? Email address. Got to have their email address. Got to have a name and an email address. If I want anybody to receive documents or sign documents, they have to have an email address. It's a security feature that everybody has to have an email address. So if I have a husband and wife, I cannot send them documents to sign at the same email address. I mean, I know this would never happen that a spouse would sign on behalf of their significant other to sign their cabin in the woods or get into cahoots with a realtor to sell something unbeknownst to their significant other, right? That would never happen. Has never happened, I'm sure. So this is a feature that's built in. So if you have two people in the transaction, you have to have two separate email addresses. Yeah, you can. It's in dotloop.com, mykw.com. If you click on the My Transactions button, that'll bring you in. All right, so next to the person, you have, looks like a couple of pages. Those are templates. So we built the system for you with templates, or what we call packages. So listing packages, sales packages, Virginia listing sales packages, DC listing sales packages. We've broken everything out for you. There is a Northern Virginia Association of Realtors package that has every single document in there available to you. So that's where you'll find documents that aren't readily available to you, and you'll see what that means in a little bit. And then right next to that, you see there's a little My Account button. So you would literally just go in there and update your contact information. You can choose what your signature looks like, how you want to be communicated with. So basically, it's going to be default checked that anytime something goes on in one of your loops, somebody signs something, that you're going to receive notification. That's the way you want it to be. Okay? You're in the blue screen. You can follow along.
Transactions from my own personal. Why is that?
Because you previously used the system.
Okay. So it went through KW.
If the link's just broken, we'll fix it.
Okay. All right.
It happens quite often, unfortunately, especially if you've used it before. It recognizes your name or maybe a previous email address. It's just a matter. We'll have to call them and have them reconnect the KW office. But you can follow along from it because even though the color scheme is different, most of the functionality is going to be similar.
Yeah, and it has like my old name.
Right. All right. So right over here on the left-hand side, you see new features, new dotloop features. One thing I really like about dotloop is they're consistently changing their system and updating it because it's constantly getting better. So they're very good about posting announcements once a month when they make changes to the system. So it's always good for you to kind of take a look at that, see what changes dotloop has gone through, where are they at, what's going on, and what new features have they added to the system. Filter. On this page, you get to change how this looks. Actually, I'm going to come over to this little page button right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on that because I don't like looking at my page full of loops. I like looking at my page in lists. Let me see what I can do. If I go too big, I'm not going to see. That's pretty big. Does that work for you guys? You want to come up to the front? Okay. All right, so you notice that I changed right here. I just changed the way that my loop view looks. Okay? That's just something that works a little bit better for me. Now, this is a list. Okay? Now, I can filter how this list comes across. I can change it by active loops, closed loops, what we call our archive loops. So in loops, once you create a loop or once I add a document to a loop, I don't care if you've ever filled in information on a document, you can't delete anything. It's a safety feature for you. Nothing can ever be deleted from dotloop. We use what's called archive, which basically means it's hiding it in the background. So if I archive something, I can always bring it back forward again. Right? Even if I never use the document, it'll be there. I'll archive it in the background. Say if I added a short sale contingency form, but I'm not doing a short sale, I just archive the document and it'll be there for perpetuity. I just won't see it. Okay? But so you can never delete a document. Sorry about that. All right. So this is your home screen. This is your loop screen. Now we're going to talk about creating a loop. So when you create a loop, you have to name a loop, okay? And there are two ways that the office will want you to name your loop. If you're working with a buyer, you're going to name it after the buyer. Okay, it's common sense. I have a buyer, I'm going to name the loop after the buyer's name. If I'm taking a listing, I'm going to name the loop after the property address. And I'm going to show you the system will default help you name the property address because it's connected to Google Maps. So as you start searching for properties by property address, it'll start guessing, are you looking for this property? Are you looking for this property? And then you're going to see different variations of that property. dotloop is not connected to Bright MRS. dotloop is not connected to tax records. So it only has the information in it provided by dotloop users. Okay? Not every agent is a dotloop user. If you're doing a transaction, the cooperative agent does not have to be a dotloop user. They're going to use whatever system they want to use. Right? They may use zip forms, they may use Authentisign, they may use paper, they may take pictures and send you JPEGs of every single page in the contract. Yes, that has actually happened. It's a nightmare. Absolute nightmare when you get people that have no idea what they're doing and try to use technology when they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And last thing you want to do is try to coach somebody through using dotloop. But you will see that obviously being the #1 real estate company and the amount of transactions that we do as a company, more and more KW agents you'll come across the table with will be using dotloop. So that will help you as you go forward. But don't trip up if somebody's using something else, because you can use this platform completely on its own for your specific needs. All right? All right, so we're going to go ahead and create a loop here. And I'm going to go ahead and take a listing loop just for today's practices. Now, if you're doing this, you practice it, or you leave class today and you go home, you can do everything that we're doing. You can go in, you can put your house up for sale, you start filling them. It's not connected to the MRS, so you don't have to worry about that, okay? I'm gonna sit and drive this way for a minute here, and hopefully I don't get too much interference. So I'm going to create a loop. So somebody give me an address. I hit the create a loop button on the right-hand side of the search bar, right in the middle of the page. If you're on the if you're still using the circles, hit the plus. Yep. All right. So no, you're fine. Just looking at you. Somebody give me a property address. Your neighbor's house. Doesn't have to be yours.
1, 2, 3, 4. You need a real one.
Yeah, I would like a real one.
105 West Broad.
I use that all the time. It's like 2209. All right. I just put in 2209. We see what happened here? It's trying to guess what property address I'm looking for. Now, dotloop is not regional, it's national, right? So it's going to see listings from all around the country, okay? And you'll see just by typing in 2209, give me options. And what you see here on this page, right, you see the property address in Joplin, Missouri. It says source.loop, MLS number, and listed by. So this means there's a dotloop user in Joplin, Missouri that has this listing and has put information about this property. Now, if that was the property I was looking for and I selected it, it would ask me if I would like to import that data into my loop. The answer is yes, yes I would, right? So if I was working a buyer, I just said I was going to create a listing. But if I was working a buyer and I was searching, right, I would grab whatever information I can because it's going to make my life easier when it comes to auto-filling documents. Does that make sense? All right, so let me keep typing because this was not the property I was looking for. Did you say Grayson? Grayson Place, Falls Church, right? All right, so if you were the listing agent, this is typically what you would see because it's not going to be in dotloop yet, right? Because it's not what we call searchable. Dotloop doesn't use the term active because they don't want to mislead you by saying we pull MLS data, so they call it searchable. So the listing should not be searchable. All right. Could it be searchable if you're taking over the listing for somebody else and they haven't deactivated the listing yet? That happens. Come see me if you come across you're trying to put a listing into the system and it's showing active under somebody else's name or searchable under somebody else's name, because we need to contact their broker and make sure that they've terminated their agreements. So we would go ahead and choose this. So, and I don't want you to keep typing. I want you to select from the drop-down list because that allows the leadership, the broker, the MCA, if they have to look up your loop, it keeps everything clean and organized. As opposed to you putting listing, Donaldson, property address. It's searchable, but it kind of screws everything up. So always use the property address as a default. The only time where you won't see a property, or one of the times where you won't see a potential property address, might be new construction, right? Because new construction may not have earmarked all those lots and those addresses yet, so you might actually have to type in the full property address. And that happens. Any questions on searching or finding how to name a loop? We're good? Straightforward, right? Simple stuff. All right. The next thing it's going to ask me, and a lot of people blow right through this and just hit the setup button. They'll jump right to create loop. I want you to select the template. So I told you that we have documents in here for Virginia, D.C., and Maryland. Okay, you guys are all licensed in VC. All right. Right. This won't be there under the blue. Exactly right. Because I created all these for you guys to make your lives easier. So these are what we call loop templates, and this is what I'm going to stop short of saying you have to use these, but you have to use these. It's going to make your life really easy. All right. Well, there are seasoned agents that come in and they're just comfortable using zip forms, and so I have a workaround for them. But for those of you that have never used this before, there's no reason not to use this. So this is the way you're going to go. So you literally would just choose the transaction type that you're doing. Virginia listing, because that's what we're doing right now, or Virginia sales, or Virginia lease. Okay. So what that's going to do is it's going to automatically pull the standard documents that we'd use on an everyday transaction for you in a nice organized fashion so you don't have to go find documents. Now, does that mean that 100% of the documents that you need on your transaction are going to be there at every given time? No, because maybe you have a foreclosure, maybe you have a short sale, or maybe you have a clause addendum, right? So I don't have every single document in every loop, but you can always go get a document as needed that's not pre-built into your loop. All right, so we're going to go ahead and say this is a listing. I'm going to tell it to create my loop. And I have these teacher boards in the back, and I've been telling everybody, and I keep turning my neck. So this is a loop. You'll see that the property address defaults right in. It's a listing for sale. It says select loop status. So literally, I want you to go through, when you create a loop, I want you to kind of go step by step, just like I'm doing for you. Select loop status, so this is going to be a pre-listing because you're not active yet because it's not in the MRS or Keystone. Remember, but you'll actually do work in here before you put it in the Keystone, right? Because you have to have an executed listing agreement signed both by your seller and who else? And delivered back to whom? Seller, right? Then you put it in Keystone. So your work actually starts here, okay? So it's pre-offer. And then there's a view details page. I'm not going to go there right now, but once you get comfortable, the first thing you will do is create the loop, property address, select the loop template, and then you will put it in the status and then go right into view details. The view details is basically your data collection page that will kind of help you autofill everything. But I want to give you a quick tutorial of what the loop itself looks like before we add a bunch of information to it. Is that all right with everybody? All right. So what we have done is I've divided the loop into three folders, and this is the way I like to describe a loop. For those of us that aren't too old or aren't too young, we have hanging folders at our home office, right? We've got those green files, right? And inside of those green folders, we put tabbed folders, right? We've got the hanging folder and then the tab folders that we put inside those, the yellow ones, right? So think of a loop as nothing more as that green hanging folder with different folders inside it, and then inside of that folder are documents. That's pretty straightforward, right? So that's what a loop is. So if you can wrap your mind around how it functions, what it looks like, it's nothing more than what we've all done in Commonplace in the past, separating and organizing documents in a sufficient manner. Now, I understand not all of you are organized, and if you saw my desk, you'd be like, who is this guy? I understand. But there are two people in play, or there's more than two people in play. You need to keep these organized because at some point in time, you're going to need signatures, and somebody's going to have to go through your folder and verify things. If you have a bunch of documents in a folder, in a loop that don't belong there, it's going to become problematic for Sheila, right, or whoever's helping you, your mentor or the MCA, to try to find documents. So you need to stay clutter-free and archive documents if you don't need them. Or if you have a new version of a document, just archive the one to the back. Remember, it's always there, but we only want to see the most current documents that we're using. And if we're building a loop, the way I stage this out, so the first, from a listing standpoint, you see listing loop, docs for compliance. So I have put the documents in there that should pretty much only be used at the taking of a listing stage, okay? The second folder that you see is the offer docs. Right? So these are the documents that you would use after you have a listing, but then you're in a negotiating offer type of space. So I don't put everything in one folder. Okay, I have different folders for different things. And then the third folder that I have is a miscellaneous folder. I encourage you to keep all the documents that you can in your transaction in dotloop. But at the same time, the broker doesn't necessarily need to look over and see every single document that you keep. So try to keep your other important folders clutter-free that they need to sign and review. But in the miscellaneous folder, you might upload other emails you want to keep. You might have the home inspection report. You might put a site survey in there, some closing docs, some title docs, different things that you may want to hold on to. Load those in the miscellaneous folder. We'll talk about adding documents in a little bit, but just think about, get your mind around the organizational fashion of these things, okay? Also, when we built this, you'll see that there's a checklist. The checklist is there for you to kind of remind you these are the documents you need in a particular transaction. I have also added these gray placeholders. Okay, so you see that these documents are all in black, and I can click on those. There's other documents that are there in gray that are not clickable. Those are placeholders. They're simple reminders of items that you will need to load into your transaction, right? So I'll need to upload a copy of the MRS agreement. I'll need to upload a copy of my tax records. I'll need to upload a copy of my earnest deposit check, right? So these are just reminders for you of things that you're going to need at some point in your transaction. And this can really come into play when you're dealing with an offer, because in the offer, if you have a listing, you're receiving documents, right? You're not creating a whole lot of documents after you've taken the listing. So these are placeholders saying, look, you're going to need a residential sales contract. You're going to need an earnest money deposit. You're going to need a copy of their lender approval or proof of funds if they're doing cash. You're going to need a countersigned document of the DPAR disclosure. You need the MRIS listing. And when you close, you need a copy of the settlement agreement. Clear as mud? Obviously, I understand in this class, for those of you that all haven't been licensed before, this terminology isn't all there for you yet. But you'll get there, right? Because Deb's that good. Right, Deb? Yeah. All right. Any questions of how the loops are structured for you guys at this point? No? All right. Rolling along. On this page, I told you that you could archive documents. So over here on the right-hand side, if I were to click on, let's just say the DPOR disclosure, or the understanding, for whatever reason, and just ignore what the document is, I don't need this document in my loop, okay? How did I say I needed to get rid of it? Oop, gone. Then I realized, oops, I archived the wrong document, okay? Now, the system will start to, it has triggers, like if I do something, then I can do this. Right? So now the show archive button has arrived. It wasn't there before because I didn't have anything archived. So once I've archived something, it'll now say, do you want to see archived documents? So if I click show archived, okay, at the bottom of that loop, the document that I archived will be in gray. If I didn't mean to archive it, I can unarchive it. Complicated stuff here, I know. But these are the things that you'll be panicking at 11 o'clock at night, something will disappear, and you're going to be like, I need help. Call Deb.
Yeah.
Don't panic. It's there, I assure you. It's additional, yeah, they're just additional features. Like I said, I just showed you the archive, but you'll see underneath there, it's just basically more. Open, rename, make a copy, history, print, download. Most of them, if I want to print, then I'm printing that document. If I want to download, I'm downloading that document, right? History will tell me the history of that document, what fields I filled, who signed it, when was it signed. Okay, make a copy. We're not going to talk about making a copy today, but that'll be a feature we'll use in the future. Rename. Again, it's something we'll talk about in the future because I can rename what these are actually called. Open the individual document, which we're going to do next. Fax. Your guess, I don't know what fax is. Your guess is as good as mine. No, I just clicked on the three buttons next to a document. And an optional submit, that's just the, over here on the right-hand side, I'm on the, you won't see optional submit, so ignore that. On the left-hand side, you'll see some things are marked optional, some things are marked required. That's another hint for you of us trying to steer you down the transaction of saying, this document is required for you to have. This is necessary during the transaction, or this document might be optional for you to have during the transaction. So under the, we're not in a buyer. If I was in a buyer broker loop, you would actually see all three financial forms where you may need one or none of those forms, right? If I'm doing cash, I don't need any financial contingency forms. I would archive all three. If I'm doing FHA, then I would archive the VA and the, thank you. So that's why I said most of the documents that we use on a regular transaction, but you clear out the ones you don't need. All right, so now when it comes to filling out your paperwork, what you would do is you would check the folder and open up every document that you need to fill in, right? If I clicked on an individual document, then I would have to do one at a time, and that's going to be painstaking. You don't want to do that, right? As you add new documents, you could open up one document and fill out like this, but the first time, you're going to want to fill in all the documents that pertain to your transaction in the beginning, right? So basically everything in the loop, unless there's something I've archived, I'm going to go ahead and open up and have it fill in that information, which we haven't collected yet. But that's how this function would work, okay? So that's the loop documents. Right below that, you'll see our service providers. So they're just advertisement there for you guys. Then you're going to see people. You can add additional people to your loop at a couple of different places, and this is the first place. So anybody that's in your transaction, in this particular case, you know who the sellers are, right? So you would add the sellers, right? If I was writing for a buyer, if I was writing an offer, I would know who the sellers are, I would know who the buyers are, I would know who my title company was, I knew who my lender was, and I can add every one of those people to the loop because they all have a role to play in either signing something or receiving a contract at some point in time, okay? I add the people the first time through on my view details page, but I can always add them from the loop page itself if I ever need to add anybody at a later point in time. At the bottom of the people, you see tasks. I have created a generic task contract to close list for you guys. We're not going to jump into too much detail in this class about that, but it's, you know, high level, start to finish, what you would do through a typical transaction. I can assign roles to people to do, right? Maybe it's me, maybe it's my administrative staff, maybe it's my clients, they need to get the carpets cleaned, or I need to call my photographer, and I can assign roles to people, and it'll email them and let them know that they've got things they've got to do, and it'll also say, hey, when it's due by, right? So that's up to you. You can also create your own custom task list if you so choose. So, but I found it easier just kind of give most people an idea of what they should have to do to walk through a transaction. I think most people have kind of found this helpful. Yeah, so under here in the right, like I said, come on, click. There you go. I can assign it to a person. I can assign it to a date. I can say, hey, do this step after this previous step was done. It's pretty straightforward, and it steps you through it. I don't want to get down that too much, but just know that that is there for you, and it's a really cool tool. All right, so we're going to go back up to the top because you remember when we started this, I said the first step, once you activate a loop, would actually be to fill in details, right? But I wanted to tour you through what the loop itself looks like. Any questions on the loop view? All right, I'm just that good. All right, next page, view details. So you will not have all the details to fill in every field in a transaction, but you'll have a lot of the higher level stuff, okay? So you will literally start to just kind of fill in information. This page is agnostic to whether you're the listing agent or the buyer's agent. It doesn't change. It's always the same, but you won't have all the information if you're only wearing one hat or the other when you create a loop, right? You have if you're the lister, you have certain listing information you have to apply. If you're the buyer, then you have certain buyer information that you have to apply. The person is going to ask you is, how do you want to apply the autofill settings? I always tell it to apply them to all documents, just to make your life a little bit easier. And here's where I like to add people to my loop. So in a listing, you're going to have pretty much your sellers, right? So I'll go ahead and just add a seller here. Let's see, seller. And I have to define his role, right? So he's the seller. So I remember everybody, now I just grabbed somebody from my database, but if it was somebody new, they're not going to be in your database, so you would add their email address, right? Now, if I didn't have their email address, but I wanted to put their name into the contract, I could add them as the seller without an email address. I just won't be able to email them anything, which comes in handy if you're representing the buyer and you're writing a contract and you want to put in the seller's information. I'll add them as people in the transaction. You're obviously not going to email somebody else's clients, but the fields will autofill to them, right? Keeps a nice clean document. I could add another person here. I forgot I'm in my admin role. So there are two people that will always be defaulted to your loop. The first person is admin, as you see on the screen next to the seller who I just added, right? But admin was already there. Now I'm functioning right now as admin. If I was functioning as myself, I would also see myself listed as a person in this transaction. Okay? But I'm functioning as admin. So it would say Dave Donaldson, and I would have to tell the loop what role am I active in this transaction. So I would have to define myself as the listing agent or the buying agent. But in this case, we're doing a listing. So you always have to define your role when you create a loop. You're either the buying agent or the selling agent. It's pretty much that straightforward, right? And admin is always, always, always admin. Don't ever, 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 ever change admin's role. Okay? You do not have to add Sheila. You do not have to add Steve as brokers. And I don't ever add Sheila. Don't ever add Steve. Don't ever add brokers. It seems second nature that makes sense. It's what you would do. Admin that's how they log in to sign everything. Because otherwise, your documents, your loops will merge in with their personal loops. So we utilize the admin feature. When you submit for review, they'll see it. They'll be able to sign it. It won't confuse anything. But you don't need to assign Steve or Sheila or anybody else in this office as a broker to your role. Okay, that's if you're going to write something down today, is don't ever change admin, don't ever add a broker to a loop. Okay, great. You'll see that the property address is defaulted because we told it the property address when we chose it from Google Maps. If I had continued to type my own property address, then it wouldn't be there. Right, so we'd have to verify the information. So that's why I always like the default information. The next page is the financial details page, right? So if I am the buying agent, I have some fields in here that I would sell if I'm the listing agent. Purchase price, I put in there for the buyer. The rest of these fields are pretty much seller-related fields. And why the sale commission split is there twice? Where is it? No, it's not there twice. It used to be there twice. Okay. You've got split commissions, sell side, buy side. So if I take 6%, I would put 3-3, right? Because that's what's going to be advertised on the MLS anyways. Contract dates, right? If I'm a buyer, then the contract dates are important to me. If I'm the listing, the contract dates don't apply yet. Offer dates, those are buyer fields, right? Inspection, offer date, expiration date, occupancy date. Deb's going to get in this, but be careful if you use an expiration date. Understand how that can help you and harm you at the same time. So, sorry, contract info. What's that? This isn't listing information. This applies to buyers. That's what I'm saying. You're going to get a better understanding of what fields apply to what roles you're wearing. This is a generic catch-all field, so whether you're the listing or the buyer will dictate whether you're actually filling out some of these fields or not. Contract info. We don't use this. So you might, at some point in time, use a transaction coordinator who might want to use a transaction number. This is not something we use in our market center, so you can ignore this. Referral, right? If you owe a referral, this is where you put that information in there, right? If you owe somebody 25% or 15% or 25% of a split, you put that there. If you're splitting 50-50 on a team, you put that on it. So if you have a referral going out, you can track it on here. Listing information, self-explanatory. You have the listing. I do not collect mortgage balance information and put it in there. I don't need it. There's no place for it in the contract. So I don't collect that information. That's me. I don't know, Deb, if you have a different opinion on those things. I don't gather that information. I try to take as little personal information as possible, but I'm not a broker. Homeowners dues, those things you would obviously want to disclose and put out there. Geographic information, you will pull this from the tax records. Remember, it's not connected to the tax records. But if I had represented the buyer and the listing was searchable in dotloop because I was writing it off on Deb's listing, then a lot of this information would pull over because it would import it from her publicly sharing this information. Makes your life a little bit easier. Property information here at the bottom of the page. Submit green sheet, we'll come to that later. Green sheet is a document that tells you how much you're going to be paid and kind of goes back to the market center. It's a forecasting tool. It is an important tool. You only submit a green sheet when you ratify a contract. If I've taken a listing, I don't have a contract for sale yet, there's nothing for me to submit the green sheet. If I write an offer for a buyer, I haven't ratified a contract yet. So once you ratify contract, we want you to update the green sheet and submit a green sheet within 48 hours. We have a class on that. But the green sheet is important.
Why is there a property information section on here?
Different parts of the country have different information that's part of their contracts. Remember, this is not a regional document. Right, that doesn't necessarily apply to a lot of these things. All right, then you would, so I did not put any information in this particular document. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw some in here just so I autofill a couple of fields, okay? Listings, I don't need that. Date, we get the listing information. Expiration date, let's just put it at the end of the month. Listing date we'll make today. I put the purchase price in the wrong spot. Bless you. You see original price and current price. If you have a price adjustment, that's why you have original price and current price. So if you went in and you did a price adjustment, then you would change the current price because there's a document you need to fill out to change the price. HOA dues, if there are any, right? The encumbrances, property excludes. Legal description, just called CHP, lot 5, section 1. I'm just making stuff up. And then I would go ahead and hit save. Now, I wish there was a return button right here, but the return button to go back to your loop is actually all the way at the top of the page. Any questions on filling out this view details section? No? Donna? You will. You're not going to absorb all of this today. Today is really about, okay, if I get in here and I click on this, where's this going to take me? What did Dave say? You're not going to remember everything. We've recorded the class. There's classes on training. I'm going to show you where all this other support stuff is. But remember, you can't break anything. It's a matter of just going in and trying to follow the processes that we put together for you guys. Yes, because you're showing up on the blue screen. So what you and I will actually have to call them and make sure you're connected. For some reason, it happens. The links don't always set up the way that we want them to. But everybody that's joined the office, I have added to dotloop, but your connection may or may not be functioning properly. So yes. So if you log in and you can't get in, come grab me. It takes me a couple seconds. We'll get them on board. All right. So I'm going to go back to my loop. So now at the loop, I'm going to go ahead and start filling out my documents. Now, for the sake of time, I am not going to fill out every single listing document that we need. But you guys know that you would have to go ahead and fill all this out, right? So what I had mentioned was when you're filling out documents, you would click the folder button, and then you would open all, because all these documents you're saying apply to you taking the listing, right? For sake of time, I am going to, actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the ER in there, and I'm going to actually archive everything else out of view. All right? Now I'm going to go ahead and open up the sale agreement. And the first thing it's going to ask me is if I would like to autofill the document. So basically what this is doing is taking that view detailed information that we put in, and it's going to say, okay, I have all this information for your loop. Do you want to go ahead and have it added to your contract? Is the information that you put in here correct? So you have a second chance to kind of overview everything, add in any information that maybe you missed, and then I can go ahead and say, yep, all looks good. Autofill my document for me. Well, thank you. And you will see, so how do I know something autofilled? It's in yellow. Pretty self-explanatory, right? It's in yellow. Anything that's not in yellow was either defaulted by the office because it's on the built into the template, or it's blank. So now, and I'm not going to do that in this class, you would literally walk through the rest of the contract and fill in all the additional fields that you need to fill in. And that's kind of what the boot camp class is all about. You can click on the field and change it. Yep. Now, I can do it right now. I can click right on this field and type and change it. Yep. Now, I will tell you, if we were a little further along and he had signed it and his name was spelled wrong, that I would have to get him to re-sign the document. So what happens going forward, if I make changes to a signed document, okay, and it's a .loop document, everywhere that they sign would have to be re-signed. Okay? Now, there are workarounds for that, and we'll talk about that in a little future. But for today, we're just talking about filling out contracts and creating loops. Right. So you go through, you fill out the rest of the fields. I do want to show you at the bottom of the page, there's two things that you'll see. You'll see the, I use Sam Seller. So his initials are here. Does that mean he initialed this document? No, he didn't. It's placeholder. It's saying this is where Sam is going to initial when I send the document over to him. Okay. Next to that, I see admin. Those are the fields that are assigned for the broker to sign. Even though it says admin, that means that for the broker is going to sign when you submit the documents for them to review. Okay. If you happen to get in here and for some reason your seller's not default, it still says seller, or admin over here says no one, a link might have broke. Come see me. Okay. We'll take a look at the document you're trying to use. Okay. So let's talk a second about getting signatures on a document. All right, so at the top of the bar here, I see the Save and Share button. So let's just pretend I filled in everything I needed to fill out. And now I would go ahead and be ready for my clients to sign the document. I'm going to give you a little bit of a disclosure here. Okay, are our clients sometimes potentially in a rush? Will they sign whatever we stick in front of them as fast as they possibly can sometimes? Is there a problem with that? Is that a danger? Danger Will Robinson, right? Be careful. This is a great tool. It's a dangerous tool. It's your responsibility to walk your clients through the contract. I get this disclosure in every single class. Don't let them roughshod you through the contract, because if something goes wrong, they don't get a property, or they do get a property, right, and they can't get out because you wrote such a great offer and it was accepted. And something upsets them, think about, you know what? Dave did not walk me through this contract. He rushed me through this. I didn't know what I was signing. Could they have an argument? Could you find yourself in front of the board? At a minimum, could you find yourself in front of the board? Take time and money, have to deal with things, right? Buyer beware, they sign this, that's legal, but you could be tied up in knots, and you don't want to be that. So walk them through the contract. I don't. Yep. I say, I'm sorry. I need to go over this contract with you, and I won't go into every single minute detail, okay? But I will take the time to go over this contract with you. It benefits you, and it benefits me. And I hope you can understand that. Now, we don't have a lot of time. I also, in a buyer's consultation and a listing consultation, give copies of the contract to my clients so they can look at them in advance. Because do we have lawyers that we may end up having to write contracts for? They're fun. Yeah. Right, so that's why I'm saying for you guys, send them copies in advance as part of your listing or buyer presentation. Give them the bulk of like the contract for the most part, or things that you use in a typical transaction, all right, that are stamped example or sample or whatever. And they can take the time to go through that if they choose, ask you questions if they choose, because when it comes to the emotion of signing a contract, and when it actually comes to putting numbers on, they're going to be frazzled. You got to control that situation. And at that point, you can kind of stick a little bit to the higher level. And even if I've written five offers for them, while the process may get a little faster, I'm still going to go over the details of the contract, because not all contracts are created equal. You've got price issues, you've got dates that are important that may be different from previous offers. So just don't get sucked into that of letting them sign things very quickly. All right, so this will say that, okay, Sam Seller has 12 fields assigned to him that he's going to sign. That's either initial fields or signature fields. And next to it, it says he can sign rights. So you have 4 rights that I can assign to anybody in a particular transaction. And can sign means that Sam, when he receives this document, can initial or sign everywhere he was assigned to sign. And that's it. It will not be able to edit the contract in any way. Can't fill in any additional fields, can't do anything. Now, if I had also clicked on a field and say, all right, Sam, I know you're not sure if you want to list at 6 or 625 yet, but you want to sleep on it, sign these documents and send them in the morning, I could literally in the contract click on that purchase price field as an example, assign it to Sam, so that when he goes through the document, it'll prompt him, you've got to put something in this space. That will fall under the can sign abilities because I've assigned him to do something. Does that make sense? All right, let me get there in a second. That still can sign. That's still just can sign. Fill and sign. Now, while the example I just gave you sounds like fill and sign, right? It's not. Fill and sign opens the entire document, period, end of story. That would allow them to fill in everything and anything or change anything you did. Do you ever want to give your clients that ability? Except there's one document where I will allow my clients fill and sign abilities for. Lease application. There's so much information in the lease application that I don't want to collect. Cars, dogs, pets. How many places have you lived at 7 houses in the last 10 years, had 4 different jobs, right? This happens. I don't need that information. It needs to be on the information, but I don't want to collect it. Too much time. So I'll send them just the lease application, okay, with Canon, fill, and sign abilities, that they can go through and put all that information into that particular transaction, into that document. But that's really the only one where I'll do it. Even the listing information, I'll put all that in there. The fields will fill them out because I've done the walkthrough. But that's the only document I'll use. Deb, have you come across any other reason to use that? Yeah, there's really not. You're going to create a headache for yourself if you don't pay attention to what your control measures are here. I skipped the review only. View only is straightforward, right? I'm going to send you a copy of this document, and you can't do anything with it except read it or print it. Who would I send a view only copy of the contract to? Lender, title company, right? Appraiser, right? Anybody that needs a copy of something in this loop, they're going to get a view-only copy of the transaction. Edit and private, we're not going to touch on that today, but basically if you and I were cooperating on a loop together, okay, and you understood what you were doing and I understood what I was doing, we could actually edit documents on the same document without having to cross out, strike out, replace, and that's edit in private. So you can make changes to an offer I sent you right live on the document, and vice versa. And if I made you an offer at $600,000, and you counter me at $650,000, right? It would erase my client's initials on that particular document. My clients would have to re-sign, and your client sign. So that's kind of the edit in private. So that's more as you get more comfortable. I would have you guys pair up and practice that. But that's what that definition is. That's more for agent-to-agent usage, not agent and client usage. Now, when I send a document to a client to sign, there's 3 different ways that a client can sign a document. And this is dry material, I'm sorry. I could just go ahead and click share, okay? And if I hit share, that's basically an email button. So it's going to email these documents to my client at his home to sign these contracts. Now, the backtrack I just told you to walk your clients through. So I implore you to get on the phone, Skype, Snapchat, Google Hangout, video, whatever that looks like, and talk them through what they're signing. And you're going to see here in a minute how quickly they could sign a document if you don't do that. Okay? So that's how that they would sign remotely. I could also print off this document and walk that out to them to sign it. Because some of your clients, and this used to be age specific, but it's really not age specific anymore. We're in a very secure area. People aren't comfortable with some of this stuff, so you have to have a conversation in advance about how you do business and let them know what to expect. Under the More button, there's a host in-person signing. So this is what you would do if they were going to sign digitally, but they're actually in the room with you. Okay, so from your computer, they can sign these documents. So that's hosted in-person signing.
So if you're sitting down doing a buyer broker agreement, and you're right there in the computer.
Or my phone or my tablet. Yep, they could sign right there. So, all right, so I'm going to say host in-person signing. And it's going to say who's signing. And it literally says hand the keyboard over to your person and have them take control, because you are not allowed to even hit yes, because that's like signing, right? So slide the keyboard over to them. And then I'm going to say, okay, begin signing. Now you'll notice the screen color changed, right? It turned to blue and white. So what it did was it actually left your account and it went into a third-party account, which will become your client's portal should they activate it, okay? And up at the top, it says begin signing. Now, you'll see that I can still scroll up and down, so which will allow me to talk them through what they're going to sign, right? But the minute I hit start signing, it jumps to that first signature field. Okay, now the first time they sign, somebody's going to ask them to adopt their signature. You'll see, we're kind of used to this. You have a default setting font. I actually, in recent months, have decided that I prefer them to actually sign something. Right? It kind of takes it to another level of them actually doing, right? And it's a little bit more authentication to what it is, if there's an ever argument. Now, I'm going to show you some confirmation pieces of how we track when they sign, how they sign, and where they sign from. But I like having them actually sign the document, whether it's with their finger on my tablet or my phone or using the mouse to actually draw their signature. There's something comforting and real about that, as opposed to just adopting that standard format. But that's just me. You can go either way, okay? Now, in this, it also says, by clicking Adopt, I've read and understand dotloop's e-sign consumer consent disclosures and terms of use. Those are both clickable. If you have lawyers or if you have engineering types, they're going to want to read that stuff. And you can also remind them that in the contract itself, it says digital signatures are legal, okay? But you could go ahead and click on that and go have them read through that if they so choose. Okay? Once I go ahead, adopt and sign, okay, let me just scroll back to where I just signed. You'll see that the pink turned green or blue, depending on what you see. All right, you see the signature is there, and it's time and date stamped. Okay? And what they did, it jumped to the next block, right? So I'm signing, and I don't have to pick that signature every time. And I'm signing, and I'm signing, and I'm done. Oh, wait a minute, you're not done. So if they click done and you're not done, it'll tell them they're not done. Now, when you're done, it'll say, okay, you are finished. Finish signing. The moment they click finish signing, you're going to receive the documents back in your loop signed. They don't have to email them back to you. You are automatically going to get them back. Pretty cool, right? It's also going to ask them, would they like to create their own account? I encourage them to create their own account because they can always log back in and see what they signed. Okay? Now, they don't see your loop. They will only ever see things you shared with them. So if you have documents in there or communications or even documents they may sign but you haven't sent them yet, they're not going to see any of that. You started to make changes to documents, they won't see it unless I shared it with them. So, no, it does not. I have to send it to the broker. It doesn't have that functionality. I wish it did. It doesn't yet. So we'll talk about, okay, next steps. I have to get my broker to sign it, but this is from the client signature standpoint. So I do encourage them to create their own account. So I'm going to X out. I'm not actually going to create an account at this point in time. Now, what I can't do is I can't go, all right, let me just back page into my account. Nope. I actually have to re-log in back into my account because I remember I left my account. Let me re-log in. $10? Okay. Oh, and I did it in an admin loop. It's like 700 loops in there. All right. That's okay. The one thing I forgot to do, admin. What was that? 2209? Is that right? There it is. All right, so there's the loop I was working on. So when I open this up now, do I see how now it says this document was signed? Now, if I had two people that had to sign the document and one person signed it, it would say waiting on others. And if I had to prompt somebody, I could resend it to somebody and say, hey, still waiting on this. Maybe I got their email address wrong or something like that. Let's take a look at the actual document that was signed. Now it's time and date stamped at the top. See, it's got this dotloop certification there. If I click on that, it tells me every place that they signed. It tells me when did they sign, their ID address that is assigned to them, and the IP address of the computer that was used to actually sign their account, and the viewer agreement that they agreed to when you read it to them to go ahead and click forward. So if you ever get called in to something, this is the documentation saying this is what I went to know. Point of interest, something I always do, I make a note in my calendar that I met with so-and-so at a certain date and time to sign documents. There's just layers of backup. It's a little bit of paranoia by me, but if you're loosey-goosey with some of this stuff, it could come back and bite you in the keister. So just be careful. Document what you're doing when you're doing it. Yes?
So, like the last example, you did this with one person, but that was only with one person. If you had multiple people who were involved in the signing,
Mm-hmm.
and you would, first you did Sam Seller, after he finished signing, would it then say, okay, Mrs., because you put her in there?
They'll both receive it at the same time. And there's not an order. It doesn't matter to what order.
No, but if you're doing the signature in person, you're all in the same room.
Yes. Yeah, well, first I would say that I did Sam, and then I would host a person and do the next person. I don't think I've actually done host in person with two people. I don't know if I can check them both. I think I'd have to do one at a time for the authentication piece. I've never actually had to do it in that example. But I think you would just do one at a time. All right, so let me close this window. Now, if I also clicked on any of these documents and say, I needed to change his name because I spelled his name wrong, see what happens. If I make changes to this form, right, you're going to create a new version and you're going to delete your signatures. Now, if I accidentally hit yes to this, it's not the end of the world, because basically what I would be doing, I would be creating a new version. The original version is still there. I can always restore back to that. But if I did make a change, I would have to go get new signatures to the entire document, not just where I made the change. Okay? So be careful if this pops up. What's my mouse? All right, let me come back out of here. And I'm going to try to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. So the next step for you guys would be to get the broker signature, right? So we don't share with the broker. We do what's called submit for review, okay? So in the upper right-hand side here, and I wish this was more prominent, and I've asked for it a number of times, because the share button is all over this thing. But the submit for review is up in this upper right-hand corner, and it's an important piece. So we submit for review for Sheila to get signatures on our documents, okay? Now, a client, I can send an individual document to. The broker, I have to send the entire folder to. Now, if I archive documents within a folder, those documents won't go to Sheila. But everything in a folder, when I hit submit for review, will go, because it's assuming that not only does she need to sign these documents, she needs to review the documents that are in that folder, right? Because she only needs to sign the exclusive right to sell or buy. But everything else, she just needs to have, she also needs to have eyes on to make sure that your client signed everything, all the fields are filled out. You guys get that, right? All right. So on the upper right-hand side, I would check this folder and say, hey, you know what? This is marked required, so I'm going to archive this. If you ever have a document that's marked required and by chance you don't need it, you can archive a required document. Okay? You may get a question later like, hey, where is this? But you can, if I tried to submit this document, it'll say that I can't submit it because I have documents that are missing that are required. So if you ever come across that and it's either A, oh, right, I'm missing that, I got to go get it, or B, it doesn't pertain to this particular transaction, which really shouldn't happen. Okay? All right, so I'm going to say, all right, this document needs to be sent to Sheila. Now, the share button popped up, right? But I don't share, I need to submit for review. It's going to say, now it's kind of redundant here. It says which folder, even though I collect that, it asks me again. So I want the listing docs folder. I will say, yes, it is a listing. And I could put a note in here, hey, Sheila, my first contract. Hope everything's right. Be gentle. Be gentle with me. Because if you have major errors, she's going to kick it back to you and say, look, you're missing. So a couple things. She'll either correct it because you just missed one little thing and she can add some things. If it's really wrong, she's going to send it back to you, tell you to come see me. Go see David, you need training. Right? And that's okay. But she's not going to interfere with you doing your work. But if it's really bad, there'll be some proactive things you need to do quickly. And then you would hit submit for review. I'm not going to do that because she gets bogged down with stuff. But once I did that, right here where it says not submitted, would change to compliance reviews. That's the status of the folder that you submitted. And when she signed it and it came back, you would receive notification that she signed it. And then that status would either say ready for listing, or ready to enter into Keystone, or ready, if it was a buyer contract, it might say ready for DA, which is telling the MCA that they can get prepared for title docs. It just lets you are next so. Or it might say needs training, or compliance review errors need corrected, or you need to go fix something. So pay attention to that, and then you can resubmit once you've fixed the fields. That's really as far as I want to take you guys today. I want to show you where some of those help features are, okay? And then I'm going to turn this over. So at the bottom of every loop, or every loop page, you see a help center button, a phone number, and a member ID button, okay? If you're stuck and you're having problems and you need to call dotloop, by all means, their support is excellent. I've actually been to their headquarters in Cincinnati. They're really great. When you call, it's going to ask for your member ID button. Your member ID button is kind of lets them know that you're with Keller Williams, their largest client, and puts you to the top of the list. So your wait times are usually pretty good, unless there's a couple other Keller Williams people in front of you. But the wait times are pretty quick. The help center, okay, is where you go, because when you leave here today, I'm not going to make any assumptions that you memorized everything I just showed you. Okay, the middle screen, it says agent, right? And there's all the topics. You know, start my first loop, getting signatures, adding documents, people and contacts, make a copy, easy offer. You can go in at any time and look at these things. At the top of the page, you'll see there's a dotloop-palooza. They do training all the time, similar to what I do, that you can log in and register and go through their basic version and their advanced version. They do them in 1 hour, every other hour. So like the first hour is basic, the second hour is advanced, and they just rotate them throughout the day. So you could certainly sign up and do that. More training is better as far as I'm concerned for you guys. Under this best practices button is if you click on the video button, there's a 1 hour video. Basically what I just took you guys through, there are video best practices training for you guys to see, right? On our office YouTube page, have you guys all subscribed to the YouTube channel yet? YouTube.com/KW Falls Church. We have playlists. Okay, under the playlist, I have some best practices for dotloop tutorials. That's love it. You'll see the Ignite playlist. You'll see the Bootcamp playlist. So all these sessions are recorded for you. Usually takes me a day, give or take, to get them up there. Get them up as fast. YouTube.com/KW Falls Church. If you subscribe to the channel, every time we add a new video, you'll get a notification that there's a new video on the channel. All right. So you got support on many levels, right? Dotloop support, office support, and then if you need a one-on-one tutorial to follow up because you're really struggling, schedule some time with me. I'll talk you through it. As you do this class, right, obviously you want to make sure you're registered. So leave here, log into KW, make sure that you're logging into dotloop, that you're getting to the black and red screen, okay? If you have trouble with that, you could either if you're seeing the blue screen, basically what we're going to do, Donna, and this is what we would need to do, is call support. Say, give them your member ID number. You're not seeing a member ID number. So you'll call and say, hey, I'm a licensed realtor now. I'm with Keller Williams Falls Church, Market Center 949. My dotloop is going to my basic account. I need a link to my office account. And they'll be able to connect it right away for you. That's essentially what we would have to do. Any questions? Do you guys feel good about this? Do the bobblehead? Yes, no, maybe so. The dashboard? Sure. Until it's 11 o'clock and I'm trying to write an offer. Yeah. It really is. It's going over it. Please, I beg you, and I say this in every class, right? If the first time you try to do a loop is the first time you go to take a listing, does that happen? Right? Shame on you, right? Does that happen? No, if you took a listing today, okay, I'll work you through it. But take your time to learn the tools, because it will take you an hour and a half the first time you go to write a listing. Give yourself time. Unless you've practiced it. Right? Get with each other. Do this class. And every one of these documents she does, do them in loops. Send them back and forth. Sign documents. We didn't even talk about editing in PDF yet. We just don't have a lot of time to do that today. Those features are there too. There's nothing you can't do in here. You're not going to break anything. So just have fun with it. Right? A lot of people are scared to make a mistake. I give you permission to make lots of mistakes because it's practice. All right, guys. Thank you for your time.
I do
But you want me to put your PowerPoint, right?
I'm not
Oh, you're not doing that today, so you don't need this at all?
We're just gonna talk over this and give homework.
So you don't need this at all then?
I don't need the power.
Just for the people to watch.
Oh, yeah, you want to bring up, in case they don't have their book at home. Gosh, I don't know how they're doing with that. Who's still online?
There's still 4 people online.
Okay. I mean, who they are.
Kelly, Lorena, and Rachel.
Okay. They need homework.
You have to email them.
Kelly has her book.
Yeah.
Oh, Kelly has her book.
Lorena should have a book from before, and Rachel. Okay.
But this should be what the handheld.
I can just use the handheld. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, we only have barely 10 minutes for your homework. So if everyone could pull out in your, I think it's page 3 and 4, it's called your buyer's bootcamp scenario. Okay, so this is what you're going to use tonight to work on practicing filling in your buyer's exclusive right to represent the buyer, the purchaser, which is your buyer's agreement, which follows this. So I'm going to read the scenario to you. As I read it to you, please take a pen out and jot notes that come to your mind. There's no right or wrong necessarily, but I want you to hear what's being said. And the first thing that comes to your mind as it being said, jot that down if you think of something. Like, for example, did that make sense, or should I be asking another question here, okay? In your notebook, page 3 and 4, I'm going to read this scenario to you. I want you to, if you think of any questions as I'm reading this script to you, just to jot them down, okay? All right. So Bill is calling up an agent, okay? So Bill, hello, my name is Bill Smythe. I was referred to you by Jack Jones. We are stationed together in Germany some years ago. The agent, hello, a friend of Jack Jones, great. How may I help you? My family is locating to the DC area in the next few months, and we would like to purchase a home. That is great. Tell me about your family. Well, my wife Mary is a pediatrician and looks to join a firm, practice when we get settled. Our daughter's in 8th grade and our son is a junior in high school. He loves to play ice hockey. If you know of any schools that have a team, please let me know. Schools are important to us. Bill, what areas are you interested in? Well, I'm really not sure. We don't know the area except for the tourist stuff. I'll be working between the Pentagon and Crystal City. I'm not sure about whether I will drive or take the metro. I would like to get home within 30 minutes from my job. We need at least 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. I would like a garage and a work area. Mary would prefer a master suite. Her parents will probably visit often. I know prices in your area are higher than most. With Mary's part-time salary, we should qualify for about $700,000, but would really like to keep it closer to $575,000 thereabouts. Agent, okay, that is a start. Have you spoken to a lender? No, not for this transaction. Our credit is good. We own a home in Ohio that we rent out. Bill, I can provide you and Mary with the name of a lender that I have had a great working relationship with. His name is Ed, Tim, Rich, Rob now. Would you like his number? Or may I give you a contact information for him to call you? What is a good date and time? If you are looking to move in the next few months, we really need to get started. Are you in the area now? No. We are planning a house hunting trip next weekend. Can you show us around? I would love to block some time for you and your family. One of the requirements in our area is that we have a written agreement between you, the client, and our brokerage. It is called the Exclusive Right to Represent Buyers Agreement. There are a few other disclosures that accompany this agreement. We have a few options. I can write up the agreement and send it to you via an online signature, or I can email you PDFs that you can write in, sign by hand. Does that work for you? I guess so. But I would really like to sit down across from you and face to face. Bill, we can certainly do that. I can send you the documents in the email, giving you the chance to read it prior to our meeting. You may make notes on it. Please make notes on it, and I may have a clean copy for your signature. Will the home be in your name and Mary's? Yes, sure. How will we determine what we're going to visit? I will set up a search for you. We can refine the search as needed. Okay. Any questions pop to your mind right away? Very good. Anybody else? I'm sorry? Okay, school. So, right, so you can't give them a lot of information about the school, but you could send them links to Fairfax, Arlington schools, and just share with them, here's the school information, please check their websites out, that you cannot steer them in schools. Okay, anybody else? So let's go with the names themselves. Now, you guys saw David called me Deb. Is Deb my name? Right. So let's, right up front, if you're going to put a contract together for someone immediately or start talking to a lender about that person, get their names right away. So as that initial conversation was taking place and before he closed out, the next thing that Jack should say was, Bill, is Bill your given name? What is your legal name? What name would you and Mary be signing your documents in? Okay. So for this class, his name is William S. Smythe and Mary J. Smythe. William S. and Mary J. So you will use those names throughout this process, and we're going to start filling in our documents. Smythe. Did I put an E on the end? I don't remember. I wrote this at midnight about 4 years ago. Yeah, no E. Okay, so the other thing to the lender question. So if you have a working relationship with lender, or perhaps they do, I'm sorry? Okay. You want to, can you please say what you were thinking? Right, well that was right, so steering, right, that's what I'm saying. If you have several, and yes, that is correct. I should have given that, and that's why I'm asking you, what was the first thought? If they have a relationship with a lender, may or may not, here are suggestions of lenders that you could refer them to, what bank do you bank with or what have you. But impress upon them that they need a local lender as to at least have a second opinion. I don't want to have time to go to the horror stories of the online lending and stuff like that, but they're not from this area and they don't necessarily know the differences. And if you yourself are not from this area, the significance of being in 22046 versus 22042 is a big difference in the market. And we'll get into that later as we start. Exactly. So a lot of those are 9 to 5, like the credit unions, they're 9 to 5. It's the 9 to 5 mentality. So it's different. Anything else anyone thought about? Correct. They don't have to use the lender they first go to. Absolutely. Sometimes. So you brought that up, Navy Federal. What? So you're assuming he's military. You're assuming he's military, right? But no one's asked. Right. So no one's actually asked, are you military? Because then that would bring the VA loan, right? Exactly. Because in this area, we are so used to hearing the word station, TDY, all this stuff. So it implies military, but there are a lot of government contractors that are not military and never have been. So that's a question. You mentioned stationed within Germany, Bill. Are you military? Yeah. You don't have to be active duty to get VA. You don't have to be active duty. And if so, then you don't need to know, but you can say they may not know that he's used the VA on his home in Ohio. Okay, but it's been paid off. So he still has access to his VA. Correct. And so he may not know that because in his mind, he's used his VA benefit on the house, but the house has been paid off. But that's something that the lenders are going to check with him on as well. But anyway, so those are just some highlights of things. And believe me, conversations do take place like this. I had years ago when Steve and I were working and his wife was the agent. Come on in. No, come on. Guys, get settled. We're wrapping up. Anyway, someone called from Texas and was, bullet pointing just like this. We want this, we want this, we want this. And I said, you're wanting to pay $400,000 for 4,000 square feet? Yeah, Pittman Hills houses in 2005 were going for that. I said they're 800 square feet on a quarter-acre land. Right. Right. It's unrealistic because they don't understand the market. So other things that we'll talk about later that come into play is her salary. She's not employed yet, so that won't count. So the homework for tonight is for you to, we're going to say that they are military, so we're going to use the VA because that will come into play the way when we're writing contracts later, some of the things in the contract. So we're going to use the VA. So tonight, as best you can, whether you do it through your dot loop or on paper, start just kind of filling in, reading. Barbara, can we say it again? Reading. The goal of this class is that you're going to read every document so that you can know what you're telling your clients. I have come across too many agents that have never read the contract. And when they throw up an objection, it's obvious they have not read the contract. So that's my goal for doing this class, is that you walk out of here having read the contract and the accompanying documents, and makes you a better agent and it makes us a better brokerage. So tomorrow we start at 9, and it's going to be listen to me talk for hours and reading through the contract, okay? Right. Yes, not the contract, just the buyer's broker. Exclusive right to represent purchaser. It's your page. Yeah. You can do it here. You can do it on paper. And if you're not comfortable with dot loop, I would do it on paper. And I think, I'm sorry, what was your name? Donna. Like she said, sometimes you can actually see around you better when it's on paper and not up on the screen. And then as we progress through class, you will put it into dot loop so that we can check it for you. Okay? Come on in, Andrew. Okay, so the class coming in here is actually a great